Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Joining in a little late here today. Apologies for that. I really had to drag myself to do this, I'm going to be honest. Could be doing better. Not doing too hot. Not doing too hot. Really not feeling up to Destiny just in general right now, you know what I mean? Let me get YouTube set up here, then we can get going. Got a little bit of a discussion going on here today. Something I was planning on doing. So, yeah. Should be fun. Okay. That one. Get rid of this stupid ad. We aren't doing stupid builds today. I apologize. No stupid builds today. VODs. Cool. And then Destiny 2 for the title. Alright. Okay, I think that's up. Somewhere. Probably. It's probably live, right? Cool. It's posted in the town square. Here we go. And let me get the Twitch stream in here too. Oops. All right. We should be live. Sweet. Everything's looking good. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Greetings and welcome. I'm going to be real, everybody. I'm going to be real. I'm finding it really hard to drag myself to this game. I'm having a real hard time. It is playing Destiny has pretty firmly become a job at this point. Pretty firmly become a job at this point. I am not having fun with this. I'd almost be rather doing almost anything else, you know? So, anywho. But I do want to discuss game design. That is something that I am passionate about. That is something I do like doing. Arc is the worst. I feel like Arc is the worst, but Stasis is a close second. Arc exists, so no, it's the second weakest. Yeah, I think it's probably the second weakest, but you know, that doesn't sell well, you know. We want to discuss if it's actually the worst. So yeah. But doesn't mean that it can't be better, right? Doesn't mean that it can't be better. It would be certainly nice for Stasis to be a little bit more of a contender in current day meta. If you considered getting wasted before streaming, you'd rather be smashed on the job than not be. I don't drink. Stasis is pretty bad. I agree. Stasis is pretty bad. Do you like Metroidvanias, TDT? Yes, I do, but I don't play very many of them. You know what I mean? Why are you so small? Why is that so small?
Hey, after seeing Mactix's journey, I was wondering if you had
no plans for Warframe.
In the future.
Absolutely no plans for Warframe. The game doesn't interest me. And that's the big problem, is like I'm seeing all my friends kind of jump to Warframe, and that's great for them, and they're seeing success over there. I have no interest in Warframe. None. Zero. Outside of just doing it purely for the content's sake, none at all. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I would like to like Warframe. I do not like Warframe. So, you know what I'd love to do is I'd love to sit down and stream games that I like to play, but nobody would watch them, so I can't do that. And you're like, oh, well, stream what you want. Yeah, no, that's not how this game works. Unfortunately, that's not how this job works. What games? Roguelikes, Minecraft, strategy games, and like hard story-driven games. I'm probably gonna go stream Borderlands 2 on Twitch. Just go do a playthrough of it, just because like the Borderlands movie came out recently and I haven't played it in years, so I figured it'd be kind of fun. But don't blame me for Warframe. Played it years ago, had fun up until I had to pay attention to the grind. It's just like the game as a whole is just really not interesting to me. There's just a lot of things about it that I have, like, from a concept, from like a top-down point of view, you know. Borderlands 4 got announced, by the way. Oh, interesting. Heck yeah, Borderlands 2 is always interesting to watch. That's good. Anyway, Today we are discussing Stasis. Let me move you. Make this slightly bigger. One sec. How did you get shifted? There we go. Today we're discussing Stasis. I've got my 3 Stasis builds loaded up here. My Warlock, my Hunter, my Titan. My Hunter is relatively fresh-faced when it comes to Stasis builds. I don't Stasis build on them very often. But if we pull up the statistics here, let's see if I can actually manage this while I've got stream up. Give me a sec. Let me pull up some stats here real quick here for you. Light, GG, and loadout analysis. Here we go. Loadouts, analytics. 1 second, let it load, and I will put up a image on the screen here as soon as I get a screenshot. Give me just a second. DDT, would you play Dead Space? I'd probably play Dead Space over Destiny. Dead Space doesn't really excite me. Not much into the survival horror genre. I've played Dead Space. I played through Dead Space 1 and 2 back in the day. That's fine. It was fun. Alright, popular supers, subclasses. Here we go. Let's see a full list, please. Okay, only 1 page. Good, good, good. Alright. So the irony is that y'all say that Arc is the worst, which I tend to agree. But you should, statistics-wise... Let me get this pulled up here. P1 is not saved? Okay, cool. We can use that slot. Good, 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 good. Yeah, because I think Arc is free to play. That's partially why the reason it still gets used. Where is my freaking thingy? I literally just saved this image. Where did it go? Are you kidding me? Where did it save to? Bruh. Hold on. Quick access. Desktop. You're on desktop. Where did you go? Oh, there you are. Okay, I found it. I saved things to desktop so it's easy to drag and drop. Here I am not being able to drag and drop. Okay. This is the usage statistics for Stasis, or all the subclasses. But you can see, ironically, Stasis is pretty consistently along the bottom. What's most interesting to me here out of all this data, by the way, is the fact that Strand is so low. Because I don't consider Strand to be bad. Right? Like, Threadrunner, Berserker, Broodweaver are all, I think, relatively solid classes. But it's interesting that it's towards the bottom. Right? I think that's just a matter of Prismatic just taking up what would be these classes. But regardless, it is interesting to see that Stasis is generally along the bottom. Despite we all generally agreeing that Arc is pretty darn bad. Right? Like, Arc is probably the worst. Probably, overall. You know what I mean? DLC paywalls? Probably. Yeah, I think it's probably the paywalls that are making the usage rates lower. I agree with that. But, yeah, pretty abysmal. Pretty abysmal, all things considered. Alright, anyway, so what do we do to fix it? This gets interesting. I think Stasis isn't bad, it's just the Darkness subclass. The weapons you get, you can do what Stasis sets out to do. Chill Clip is a great example. IMO. Hold on, let me read that again. I think Stasis isn't bad, it's just as a Darkness subclass. Hold up. As a Darkness subclass. I'm not reading that correctly. Why play Stasis when Prismatic does everything? Well, I mean, that's a problem with Prismatic, and we've made a video about that. A not very popular video, by the way. That was probably my most disliked video on this channel to date. People did not like me saying that Prismatic is strong. Man, people did not like that. That was a really unpopular opinion, but you know what? We stick to our guns. It's whatever. Just because people don't like it doesn't mean it's not true. I feel both Behemoth and Shadebinder gimmicks for Fragments don't surpass Prismatic's version of it. Revenant got absorbed by Prismatic completely. I do agree. I do agree. Needs better punctuation. Yes, yes it did. Quick saying that the weapons, i.e. Chill Clip, does more or less everything you need to play the subclass for. I see. I see. Yeah, that is kind of interesting because Chill Clip is really good, and I love Chill Clip. But it does kind of like absorb almost every part of the needed parts of the class. Anyway, let's start with, I think, of the 3 here, I think Warlock is the weakest for PvE and the strongest for PvP. I think Titan sits comfortably in the middle for both, and then Hunter sits as the best for PvE and probably the worst for PvP. It's not terrible. Like, none of the classes are like terrible in PvP. I'd argue maybe Behemoth, I suppose. Weakest for PvE? Well, that's partially why I'm asking. What do you guys feel like is the weakest of these three classes for PvE for Stasis? Love Stasis Titan. I could give my allies Frost Armor with Stasis, then I would love it. Yeah, that would be cool. That'd be a cool update. Let me get a pen and paper out, too, so I can take some notes. Titan. Really? You feel like Titan's the worst? I've had quite a bit of success with Titan. I guess... I don't know. I guess the enemy does have to be kind of be grounded. You have to space out the super a little bit. The super is weakest, sure. The Stasis turrets are busted. Oh, talking about Warlock. Say it's the other way around? Titans. Titan probably. Really, I think it's Warlock. That's really interesting. I think it's Warlock. I think Warlock has the turrets and, like, that's it. At least that's how I feel about it. Stasis Titan situational. Okay. Warlocks have solid Stasis play in both PvE and PvP. Interesting. Okay. Stasis Titan is too specific overall to be PvE. Okay. Let's say Hunter's the weakest for PvE. Okay, so we seem to be relatively split. What does the data say? Where's my data? Bring my data back here. The data says that Behemoth is generally the worst overall. And then it's Hunter, and then it's Warlock. Which is quite interesting. And I guess that goes to show how powerful fragments can be. Like, how necessary fragments can be to make something viable. Right? Because I think that the Warlock's fragments are potentially the best. But, like, everything else about it is just kind of okay. So, alright. So, I guess we're going to have to submit ourselves to the stats here and say that it is Behemoth. That is probably the weakest. Let's start with what's theoretically the two stronger ones. Let's start with Warlock and Hunter, and that can give us some pictures as to what's going on with Titan a little bit. Hunter is mid in PvE just fine, but nothing standout. I think that's probably fair. Okay. This is my Hailraiser build. I could link this. Do you guys care about... I've linked this in the past. I've linked this build on Mobalytics in the past. This is probably one of my favorite builds in PvP. It is so ridiculously strong in PvP. But obviously we aren't discussing this from a purely PvP standpoint. In fact, we're probably ignoring the PvP aspect for the vast majority of things. We obviously will take it into consideration, make sure things aren't just like, you know, useless. But yeah. Behemoth is so fun to build in PvE. It just isn't very strong. Even though technically it has one of the highest DPS output supers for Titans. That's what I'm saying too. Like the Titans, the Behemoth Titan supers DPS is really good. That's partially why I'm like surprised. Like the Shatter Crystal thing, if you can space it right, is really freaking good. Compared to Warlock, Stasis Hunter feels irrelevant. I can agree with that for PvP. I disagree with that for PvE. I think that Stasis Hunter is much better in PvE comparatively. Titan's gimmicks is that you create explosive barrels. It doesn't help you create them. It doesn't help you create them or improve them. Just get the reward for exploding them. Partially. I kind of disagree with that. Partially, to an extent. Alright, anyway, let's take a look at the Stasis Warlock here to start. So, for general use case, Ice Flare Bolts are great. I guess we should probably break down each of the verbs, right? Because for all of them here, all the classes, it's Slow, Freeze, Shatter for debuffs. And then for buffs, we have the Frost Armor, the Stasis Charge, which is technically more of a pickup. It doesn't really count, but it does give like a thing, you know? It's kind of a thing you can build around. Stasis more so than any of the other ones really build around this idea of pickups. Like, it is directly programmed into their aspects, which most other things require generally build around for fragments, and they're kind of like here and there. Right? Like, think about Void with their Void Breaches and such. Right? Void Breaches are accessible through fragments. Right? Accessible through fragments, and they're kind of limited. Like, you kind of have to, like, play a specific way. Right? Whereas, like, Stasis specifically wants you to build around it. I think the only other class that tends to operate like this is probably Arc. Specifically, Arc Warlock. I can't think of another aspect specifically that builds around a pickup or like gives you access to a pickup. You know, because, like, obviously you've got, like, the tangle explosion things with the strand stuff. But those don't give it to you. Those just, like, reward you for doing something with it. You know what I mean? Knockout boosts the Stasis super light attack damage. So does Spirit of Syntheseps. Oh, interesting. I think the key point is that Hunters and Warlocks Stasis have crowd control, which is exactly what I played for Stasis for PvE. Titans just don't really have that, I see. Started playing Glacial Quake on Prismatic Titan, and I noticed that the super does a massive amount of damage, but the skill of placing them slam actually is a pretty low floor, high ceiling situational. Yeah, I agree. I agree. One thing I think Bungie didn't play enough with is area denial. They have these stasis crystals that were promoted as creating new ways to traversal and for denial, yet don't get used that much. I kind of agree. I think that the stasis crystals in general tend to be purely for damage, and that's kind of it, which feels a little bit disappointing. I like stasis because it kind of lets me be comfy by the freezes and slows. Okay. So, anyway, the stasis crystals the stasis shards, I should say, are kind of unique. I think it's also kind of interesting to possibly consider the crystals themselves as a possible source. It's interesting because stasis operates very differently than everything else does, in that a lot of it is out in the world, right? Like, it considers stasis crystals its own thing. You know what I mean? Like, even the game considers stasis crystals its own verb. You know what I mean? Obviously, we've got, like, Headstone or whatever that operates similarly. But, so it's slow, freeze, shatter for the buffs. In fact, hold on. Maybe I can do this. Let me see here. Hold on. It might get a little laggy, chat. I'm probably going to drop some frames here. Let me grab a screenshot of something here real quick from a video. It's going to get a little laggy, chat. Just hold on. Hopefully we don't completely drop out. Here we go. This is from the ARC discussion video. I'm going to grab the little sheet that I made discussing all of the verbs. And I can put that up on screen so we can talk about it a little bit better. Brace for impact, chat. Here comes the lag. Yep. Oh, my goodness. Oh, the lag. Stay with me, chat. My editor, it consumes so much memory usage. Stay with me, chat. There we go. All right, I'm in. Is it under here? Yes, it is. Here we go. Beautiful. Export. Frame. Please don't crash. Okay, I think we got it. I think we got it. Hey, Private Pounder. Thanks for the 10 gifted members, bro. Bro, really appreciate that. That means a lot to me right now. That means a lot. It does. I'm kind of in a weird headspace right now, so that really does. That feels good, man. That feels good. Prepare for Eagles, everybody. Brace for Eagles. Excellent, excellent. Oh, by the way, Twitch people, we have a sub goal now. Exclamation point sub goal should bring it up. We have a new sub goal if that's something you're interested in. The reward for completing said sub goal is y'all can delete items from my vault. Yeah, we're about 100 out. One word, Enko, but you can just scroll up for a little bit. Okay. Same, man, same. Glad to see you streaming today. Thanks, Private Pound. Appreciate that, dude. Really, I really do. All right, here are the verbs. Here are all the verbs and everything. Everything in the parentheses are like pseudo verbs. Verbs that aren't technically like something that have any real... They're not the traditional sense. Right? They're not really in the traditional sense. The pickups aren't listed here either, but tangles are because, again, they're sort of a pseudo verb. Okay? So anyway. Oh, and Private himself also became...
Why don't we get to delete things?
Why don't we get to delete things? Oh, you'll get to delete things. You just have to reach the sub goal. And that's for Twitch specifically. Specifically for Twitch. Because we do have Twitch goals and such. Anyway. Why is there 2 frost armors? Because frost armors occupy 2 spots. So you'll notice here... Let me get a finger. Hold on. Or a pointer of some sort. One sec. My hand. Here we go. Boop. Okay, let me make this smaller. All right, now you can kind of see where I'm gesturing. You'll see here I have each row. Obviously, each column is the type of thing, right? The flavor, right? But each row is a specific type. It's a general style of buff. So, for example, Devour, Cure, Frost Armor, and sorta Tangles. Not really, though. Tangles really didn't have a spot. It ended up being up here anyway. But these three in particular are really good representative here. These all are healing type things, right? These are all things that give healing, right? Devour is a healing, Cure is a healing, Frost Armor is a healing thing, right? Restoration does too, but this is more of like a survivability tool rather than like a pure healing tool. You see what I'm saying? The left bottom side is being cut off. Down here? No, this is full. I mean, this is a still image taken from a video, right? So anyway, does that make sense? Frost Armor heals. Yes, it does. It doesn't heal much, but it does heal. Slightly cut, but I can read it. Really? Where? Like, because what I'm seeing... What? Here, I'll make it smaller. There. Now it's even smaller. Is that better? I guess I could just make the full screen it, right? Yeah, it seems fine to me. Yeah, exactly. It seems fine to me. Like, it's towards the bottom or whatever, right? But it's clearly can be read. It's on the same brand as Wolfenmill. Yeah, all right. So let's move on. Yeah, it was fine. That's what I thought too. I thought it was fine. Here, I'll make it like fill up the full screen here. That way we can like discuss it better. There we go. It's slightly cutting off at the bottom. Very slightly. All right. Anyway, so Devour. All of these are like healing based things. Frost Armor does heal, which is why it's listed twice, because it also now gives damage resist. Technically here, Frost Armor shouldn't be listed. Technically what should be listed here are the crystals themselves, or the shards themselves, right? But it's technically more of a pickup, right? Yeah, because like technically it's the pickup, but it is the Frost Armor thing that is giving that, right? But anyhow, Tangles don't heal. Yeah, which is why it's only really up here, only in this spot, because it didn't make sense any other spot. I only had one more slot available, which is why it's in parentheses. it's basically me saying, yeah, I know this technically doesn't belong here, but it needs a spot here somewhere, so it kind of works. Anyway, so moving on. Overshield, Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, and Speed Boost, technically. These are all survivability-based things. These are all things that keep you alive in mid-combat, right? Longer life, stay alive longer, stay alive longer, stay alive longer. Technically, Speed Boost offers a damage resistance, okay? Right? And then we've got the utility-based buffs: Invisibility, Radiant, Glaciers, technically the
I use
spawns.
Stasis on my Titan with Wicked Implement and Hoarfrost Z, and it's pretty good. I can't remember the complete setup I have, but it's good.
It's, yeah, I think all of the subclasses are at worst C tier. You know? I don't think that that's where they should be, but they are kind of like C tier. You know what I mean? So, anywho. So, Invisibility, Radiant, Glaciers, Threadlings, Amplify. These are all utility-based things. Things that don't offer direct power, per se. Like, they don't offer, like, you know, like healing or whatever, but they offer something. So, Invisibility, obviously, you can avoid combat. Radiant gives you a bit of a damage boost and allows you to pierce barricades. Glaciers are, again, technically here, but they're in parentheses. They are technically a stasis verb, but they're weird, right? They operate a little bit differently than everything else. You have Threadlings, and you have Amplified. Cool? All right, moving on. And then these are more just general damage stuff, like damage, area of effect damage stuff. So Volatile, Ignition, Shatter, Unravel, Jolt. Every single class does these very well. This is one thing that Destiny does a very good job of. Yeah, the red is debuffs, the green is buffs, right? So these are like direct damage things. These are things that deal damage directly to the source. They do offer other things, but at the end of the day, what they ultimately offer is just pure raw damage, right? Some type of damage boost on the top. They don't apply any other type of effect to the enemy, right? And then we get over here to the more true debuffs here, right? These are like actual debuffs. So Suppression, Freeze, Suspend, Blind. I guess these would probably be considered more crowd control. So crowd control debuffs, Right, so these are more like crowd control stuff. Stuff that stuns enemies. Yeah, CCs. Yeah, exactly. So suppressions, freezes, suspends, blinds. These are all things that generally like stop enemies from doing what they need to do. Right? Things that prevent enemies from being capable of doing their job. Right? And then these are debuffs. These are our debuffs list right here. So weaken, scorch, slow, sever. Technically, scorch is a little bit different in that it is a more direct damage thing. But again, it's like, doesn't really have like a whole lot of spot here. It doesn't really make a lot of sense here. Scorch is weird. It kind of operates. Honestly, this should be in parentheses. But yeah, you get the idea. So weaken, scorch, slow, sever. These are all like just general debuff type things. Things that make the enemies worse at what they're trying to do. Yep. So we have healing, survivability, utility, just splash damage, I guess you could call it. Crowd control, and then debuffs. Like pure debuffs here, right? So looking at Stasis specifically here, I think the classes that end up doing a good job of it have a good representation in anything or everything here, right? It's interesting that Solar has no representation for this this more crowd control type thing, but it doesn't really need it because of how Scorch works. Scorch kind of operates in the two of these slots in that if they're dead with Ignition, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter that you don't have this. And the fact that Scorch leads directly into Ignition makes this kind of moot, right? It makes it to where it doesn't matter. I feel like Void is the most Destiny-esque. I love Void. You guys know this. I love Void. I feel like Void operates as the most Destiny-esque style. It has a representation everything here, right? Every single thing has like a pure representation of it. And then I would say, ironically, these are like opposites of each other in a weird way, right? And then I would say Strand also is pretty darn close to that, right? But yeah, Solar also does a good job. Where Stasis is weird, this is why Frost Armor is listed twice. Where Stasis is weird is that a lot of its listed things are external, right? Where like all of these here are buffs and debuffs, things that are applied directly to enemies. Most of the stuff here are things that affect the world itself. See what I'm saying? Like, Frost Armor is, yeah, obviously a buff or whatever, but in order to get Frost Armor, you have to use Stasis Shards. There's no other way. There's no other way to get Frost Armor other than Stasis Shards. So in its own way, Stasis Shards realistically could be up here, probably should be up here, because they're so unique in their own right. Both of the Darkness subclasses operate this way, which is why Tangles are also ending up here too. Because no other class, the Darkness subclasses uniquely play around their pickups as being a part of their kit and modify it, right? Like, the other things here don't modify it in the same way. They'll add benefit to doing it, but they don't modify the thing itself, if that makes sense, right? Like, for example, you can use Arc and get Ionic Traces with Arc Warlock to give you Amplified, right? But that's more of like benefiting what it's already doing as opposed to making it do something different. You know what I mean? Whereas something like Tangles is a good example. You can do a lot with Tangles. They do a lot of different weird stuff. Same thing with Glaciers, honestly. Glaciers should probably be in that same category, right? Because Glaciers can do a lot of different stuff. They can freeze, they can slow, they can shatter. And you can kind of play around each of them and modify each of them. So, anywho, looking at this, the thing that Stasis does a really good job of is its debuffs. Slow, freeze, shatter, these all lead into each themselves, which you would think would operate similarly to how the Solar stuff works, because Scorch into Ignition, it just kind of skips a step, right? You know, if we would consider the moment right before the ignition occurs to be like the Solar equivalent of freeze, you know, like that moment where it kind of like coalesces and then whoosh, boom, like that moment where it's quiet for a second, you know, that's kind of like the freeze moment. Enemies tend to stagger there too. Yeah, exactly. It's a moment of stagger, right? It's a similar idea. It's not really like a true verb or whatever, right? You can't like play around it, right? But anyway, it operates very similarly to Stasis, which, by the way, makes my brain very happy. The OCD in my brain very happy, because these two are obviously like different to each other. You got fire and ice, right? So the fact that these operate similarly makes me very happy. So in theory, slow freeze shatter should pretty much be the same thing as scorch, stagger, ignition, but it doesn't. You know, it doesn't. It's more like the slow is all right. It's okay. The freeze is pretty good, but it's doesn't immediately lead into a shatter. And I think that's the main area that we need to attack. I think we need to attack right here. I think this is the pivot point where things kind of break apart. Ironically, something that's interesting for freeze is Winter's Guile, right? Winter's Guile, the Warlock gauntlets. Here, let me bring them up on screen here. Collections, I know you guys can't see it. Hold on. Collections, exotics, armor, hunter, warlock. Here we go. Winter's Guile. There we go. Ugly ass piece of armor, but let me bring this up here. So, Warlord's Sigil. Targets frozen by Penumbral Blast automatically shatter. I think if more things operated like this, if this was basically put into it either as a fragment, probably best case scenario, or an aspect, I think the classes would get used a little bit more. Because the freeze is nice, the freeze is good, but when is it that you ever want to freeze but not a shatter? You know, it's basically Solar's Scorch without the ignition. Like imagine you had, in order to cause ignition, when a target had enough Scorch, they had, like, it showed a different debuff above their head, and you had to shoot them one more time in order to get them to ignite. Satisfying? Sure. Absolutely. Very satisfying, I'm sure. But less effective overall, right? It would require you to put more effort and more energy into what it is you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Could be done quicker and it's better. Yes, probably. If it was done more automatically, I'd imagine it'd be better. Obviously, Winter's Guile does not get used that much, so it's not like this is like a make or break for the thing, right? But I think if it were more just default, just generic into how the thing operates, it would generally be more valuable. Cover to build up crystals before shattering it. Yeah, probably. I like to freeze when my last enemy is a chunky boy and won't die from a simple shatter. Yeah, like there is time that you want to freeze without shattering, but maybe at that point you want the freeze to be stronger, because the freeze lasts, what, like 7 seconds? 6-7 seconds, right? Like at best. You know what I mean? So I think it's at that point that you just want a potentially longer freeze. That's the only time you're ever going to use it, right? Stasis could have a pseudo Scorch called Frostbite. Maybe. I think it would be better just as like a fragment or whatnot, right? I think we could tie certain fragments that kind of suck into it, right? When you want CC, freeze needs to be better CC than suspend if Stasis is ever going to be worth using instead of strand. Yeah, that is a good point, right? Because like freeze is good, and it can be built up in unique ways. Suspend tends to be a little bit better though. A lot more things kind of play around suspend rather than freeze, like as just a general verb. Like we've got Wishkeeper, which deals more damage to suspended targets, whereas when a target's frozen, they have damage resistance. I don't know if that's the same in PvE. Can somebody, this is not something I'm super confident on. For PvE, do PvE targets get damage resistance when you freeze them? It works that way in PvP. And you have to have the damage bonus thingy in order to make it happen. Time's the only time I don't want an instant shatter. Right, exactly. Like I said with my creeping return buff, whereas you already leeching health from targets. Same in PvP. Always found that stupid for PvE. Yeah, I understand the thought process behind it, but it feels bad when your debuff both debuffs to both of you. You know? Feels more like things playing to freezing than doing something once the enemy is I had a stretch there. Once the enemy is frozen. No damage reduction for PvE. I'm getting mixed signals here. Can somebody say with confidence whether you get damage reduction for PvE on a frozen target? Like if you deal less damage to frozen targets by default in PvE. Can somebody check that? Does anybody know for certain? Shatter should be a separate trigger from freeze so it can be specialized, more value for both. Well, it is, and that's because it's tied to the glaciers themselves. Hey, Luigi the Waddle Dee, thank you for the 50, dude. I'll let Brian read out your message here, so that way we can respond to it more naturally. feel like slow targets should slower their shooting rhythm. PvP has already blocked class ability and slowed ADS movement. Yeah, I guess it does kind of bring up the question. It's like, slow doesn't do a very good job of telling what it does. You know? Because, like, I don't even know what it... I've been using it for years. Oh, here we go.
Maybe give Frost Armor an additional use case instead of just damage resistance.
Perhaps.
Something like returning it to its old overshield effect but breaking its slows all enemies in a radius amount of slow dependent on stacks when broken.
That would make sense as a fragment, I think. I see what you're saying, and I do agree. I think they're doing a better job of making Frost Armor, like the new aspects, or excuse me, the new fragments, do a good job of making it feel more complete as a verb, right? I don't feel like Frost Armor is the source of the problems. I feel like Frost Armor is actually probably in an alright spot here, and I feel like it's the other stuff around it, you know? Because on paper, bringing this back up here for a second, on paper, Stasis has everything it needs to be a really cool subclass, right? It has all the buffs, all the debuffs, everything it needs to be able to operate in a really powerful way. You know what I'm saying? But it's just the way what it does is just generally weak, right? Generally outclassed, and not offering as much of a power option as like Solar or Strand. You know? Max. Hope you're doing great, Mr. Stickman. Thing I don't like about Stasis is that you need to sacrifice an aspect to really use Stasis Shards. That's kind of a good point, too. Yeah, I don't like that Stasis Shards in general. Well, first of all, that they're tied to an aspect, right? Exclusively tied to an aspect. And secondly, that if you want Frost Armor, you have to run the aspect, right? Like, I feel like the aspects should offer a better solution to it, but shouldn't lock you out entirely. You know what I mean? You think Guile needs a buff like increased duration? Maybe. That's for later discussion. Well, that's for a later discussion. For me, it's too hard to benefit from using. Yeah. Okay, so I think what we've done here was we figured out, I think, a pretty good spot to attack, like what it is we want to actually adjust, right? Because I think the big thing here is that freeze and slows themselves, freeze and slows are A, hard to play around, and B, not as powerful as other things, right? Because like, what does slow even do on paper? Well, slowed movement, ability regeneration, and the performance is reduced. Weapon performance is reduced. Okay, so I do believe it slows down weapon fire, because I remember seeing that. Slowed combatant set difficulty, firing accurately. Okay, so it just generally makes them makes it harder for them to shoot. Right, so cool. I think the thing that's interesting with slows is because of how slows operate, you almost are always going to be slowing a target and then immediately freezing. Like one Duskfield grenade, they're slowed. They're actually in a slow for maybe like 3 seconds. You know what I mean? Like they're slowed for maybe 3 seconds before they're frozen. Probably much faster. Slow screws up accuracy. Yes, exactly. Right? But like slow doesn't have enough staying power for it to really feel like something that is powerful. And I think that's partially why the hunters feel kind of mid, because oftentimes you're just ended up trying to get the freeze, which then you're just trying to end up getting shatter, right? Duskfield slow stacks fast. Yes, exactly. Like I said, just tested in the Lost Sector. Literally lose 5% of damage from freezing a target. Went from 4,900 to 4,700. Okay, so yeah, not anything significant, right? Cool. It's because of the nerfs to slows. Slows, useless. Freeze, hard to use. Shatter, good. Frost Armor pigeonholes you to a specific setups. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. All right, so let's focus on the verbs specifically, and then we can start fixing each of the classes, right? So for each of the verbs, I think that all sources of slow should probably last significantly longer. I think what slow does on paper should be sufficient, but like just durations of slows should probably last longer. The Duskfield's full duration is probably safe, right? But if the target stayed slowed for longer, because you have to run Durance in order to see it actually do anything, if everything generally stayed slowed a little bit longer and also stacked up a little less quickly, maybe to make it to where playing around slow specifically felt a little bit better as opposed to just a means to an end to get to freeze, right? That might be a little bit better. But then from there, I also feel like freezes and shatters also need to have something done to them, right? My 2 proposed player buff ideas are Frozen Over and Creeping Return. Weapon number 1, weapon deals 50% more damage to unshielded. Number 2, slowing enemies 10 stacks gives 20 health. I don't think it needs new verbs. I think that the verbs it has needs to be more powerful. Also, to answer your question, oh, what's this? Also, to answer your question on frozen targets and target damage, frozen targets in PvE take less damage from primary weapons. Special and heavy weapons do slightly more damage, right? That should probably be standardized to either dealing the same amount of damage across the board, and then the aspect gives you, or excuse me, the fragment gives you more, or just like all of them deal more damage generically. Probably the latter. Probably be the latter. For Stockdown Stasis, I wonder if you're ever going to discuss all the subclasses. Potentially. I like these kinds of stuff. This is something that keeps me interested. Fun fact is, Messenger does a better job of breaking stasis crystals than any other weapon in the game. Yes, it does. It does a very good job. Shatter is like Speed Booster in that it's really just a part of another verb, but it's treated like its own thing. Yeah, kinda. Because we have things like, unlike Speed Boost, we actually have an aspect that plays directly into the stasis shattering, right? Increase the damage size burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal to defeat a frozen target. In other words, when you shatter a target or a stasis crystal. I don't know why they don't use the word shatter here. They probably should. Probably be a lot easier. But yeah, you can actually build around shatter specifically. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have that with the speed boost on Arc. That's where it's a little bit different. So it definitely needs to be applied slower. What if Frost Armor buffed stability? Flavored like if you're cool and collect, you can stay on target. Okay. It's interesting. It's interesting. So let's bring this back up here one more time. I think the point of weakness here is slow and freeze. Shatter's obviously useful. Everybody loves to shatter a target. Nobody really cares about getting the freeze and the slows on the target. The only time from the discussion we had, the only time people care about freezes is if it's a target that's big and scary. At which point, freeze itself needs to be worth holding on to, right? Yeah, we like kabloomies. Exactly. Like, everyone's trying to fast pass to here, right? This is what we're trying to get to. So I think that freeze and slows need to be brought up. Shatters results of an action rather than being applied in its own way, like, say, ignitions. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Secondary explosions, but not shatter, does make some synergies, right? I think frozen targets shouldn't shatter from damage, but rather time. I agree. I was actually exactly what I was going to propose. Dealing certain amount of damage to a frozen target should trigger the shatter effect. Yeah, I agree. I think slow won't get fused with freeze because Bungie needs an overload intrinsic. Oh, I see what you're saying. Does it start to be integral to the kit? Similar to how Strand with the Tangle is replaced by old aspects with different uses, specifically for freeze, armor, crystals, further diversity. Right, so in other words, make it to where the stasis shards don't require you to run an aspect for it. I strongly agree. Well, let's start with the debuffs here. Freeze actually froze bosses. Everyone would like it more. Half duration of regular enemies. I think if you're able to freeze bosses, it'd probably be a little too strong, and I also worry that might break the game.
One, damn you for not telling me about the stream, and two, you haven't gotten to this yet, but stasis is so bad that I refuse to touch any of it anymore.
I haven't gotten to that part of it yet. I'm not sure what you entirely mean by that. But yeah, stasis isn't great. Stasis is not great. Bringing back up this image here, right? Stasis is generally riding along the bottom. Probably the only reason it's on the bottom is because you actually have to pay for it, other than Arc, you know? Okay, anywho. Let's start with slows. So, I think first and foremost, slows need to last longer. Right? Just like the durations of slows need to last longer. We can compensate by making slows not stack into freezes quite as quickly. And then we can make freezes a little bit more powerful too. We're going to basically buff all three of these, but they need to feel like more separate actions. How do we feel about that? Writing this down here as I'm going. How long does it last at base because I forgore? A handful of seconds. Good idea. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of agreements. Do we have anybody who disagrees? And if so, please tell me why. Think all stasis kills... Whoa. Lots of chatter. On a second. I think stasis kills should have a chance to create stasis shards, similar to how all arc kills have a chance to make you amplified. Not a chance. It's guaranteed. It's after a certain amount of time. But I agree that it should probably be giving you stasis shards probably from fragments rather than aspects. Stasis Titan forgot to add that back to the Borderlands videos. Ah, gotcha. 10 seconds. Okay. Slow and freeze being fast makes it really easy to newer players to build into champs. Right. But if freezes were also themselves more powerful, rather than having to, like, Stasis Hunter kind of relies on slows in order to get their freezes. You know what I mean? Like, they don't play specifically around freeze that often. They tend to play kind of exclusively around the slows themselves, just for the sake of getting the freeze, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll talk about that here. If you just have a cooldown on bosses but could freeze them, that would be nice. Orc Warlock is the weakest, hands down. Oh, back to that. Okay. Would it be relevant to say that Stasis is good and prismatic? It is, but that's kind of like going to a buffet and saying, wow, this meal is great, and then attributing that to, like, I don't know, the dessert menu, right? It's like, there's so much there, it's kind of hard to say that the buffet, like, the one part of the buffet was good when everything about it is good. Like, you enjoy the entire buffet. You know what I mean? Okay, anyway, slows generally last longer. It takes slightly longer to actually get to a slow on target. Okay? That way, if you are able to slow it, we can also make it to where when we actually get to the specific parts of the kits, you can also make it to where the slows are easier to apply to more groups of enemies, right? As opposed to, like, just one generally concentrated area, you can apply it to a whole bunch of different stuff. If frozen targets have frostbite, does gradual damage the longer they get frozen, so the timing game is get the most out of the shadowing. That's not a bad idea. I kind of like that idea of, like, frozen enemies taking slow damage over time, right? I kind of like that idea. Like I said, shatters that slows would be really nice to me. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a Titan thing.
Stasis Titan, forgot to add that back to Borderlands videos.
All right, see you, Benji. Maybe champions weak to slow don't freeze easily. I think just generally making it to where the slow stacks up a little bit, takes a little bit longer, right? But, like, when you are slowed, it persists for far longer too. Yeah, it seems more dedicated PvP. Yeah. Okay. So, we're cool with that. Should slows do anything else? Other than the fact that they last a little bit longer and don't stack quite as quickly, should they do anything else? Maybe we'll make a weapon buff for Stasis that applies five slow stacks at a time per shot. We can get there. We can get there. We're not focusing on fragments and aspects right now. We're focusing on the verbs themselves, right? Oh, wrong thing I grabbed. Give me these themselves, right? We're focused on making these better, and then we can play around them better. Because what we don't want to build the house from the roof down, right? We want to build it from the foundation up. These are the foundations. These are the pillars with which the classes are built on, right? Maybe decrease enemy attack rate. They already do, but maybe we could make that stronger. Not lower your damage, but instead increase it. Any ways to get stasis shards on Prismatic Warlock? No. Other than the creeping attrition thing from whatchamacallit. The one scout rifle. Why have slow target makes it so also increase percussion hit against them? I think that's more of a freeze thing. I'm not opposed to that though. Like if you deal more damage to slowed targets, I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, Wicked Implement. That's one. Thank you. Can't imagine slow doing anything else without encroaching on sever or weaken. But like that's kind of not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like the sever or weaken thing, right? Or probably more like unravel and weaken, right? Because both of these tend to generally increase damage output, right? That's kind of not a bad thing though, because like it needs to do more stuff. It needs to operate in a bigger space. Ugh. IMO of slow is a separate debuff to freeze, like sever, an equivalent to scorch, was used to build up freeze. I would like a little bit more. I don't know. Okay. Right. Okay. So I think we start there. I think we start with slows just generally lasting longer and such. I don't think it needs anything else done to it quite yet. Right? Because the decrease in accuracy and such that the enemies supposedly have should be sufficient. We could maybe crank that up if that ends up being a thing too. Let's move on to freeze. I kind of like the idea of when a target's frozen, they take damage over time. Nothing that would actually cause them to shatter directly. Maybe it does though. Maybe certain things, like a certain fragment, increases the amount of damage that a target takes. So targets are more easily targeted. Well, they are. Strand, I think if you look at the strand verbs and compare them to the stasis verbs, the buff to verbs kind of seem like there should be a little more. Like you're saying, like what we're proposing isn't enough. Okay. A frostbite fragment. Yes, exactly. Like a frostbite fragment. What can be done to make stasis worse? That's probably what Bungie will do, right? Maybe different amounts of slow further harm the enemy. Like burn. After slow for a while. Well, I think that's probably like, that's probably freeze, right? Frost damage would be cool. It makes it worth not shattering them, yeah. Frozen target should only shatter after a certain amount of time, or if they reach damage threshold or they die. Yeah, I think that's the direction we're going to take it. This might be something we target with an a fragment, not an aspect. Where if a target's frozen, they shatter automatically after a period of time. Right? But I like the idea of when a target's frozen. First of all, let's just cover this. Remove the damage resistance while target's frozen. Just get rid of it. PvE at least. And then B, I like the idea of a target taking a slow amount of damage over time when they're frozen. I kind of like that idea. Yeah, every unravel and suspend seem to be so much better than what you could get from stasis. I think substantial than what have been proposed are more valid. Okay. What if there's a new debuff called Frostbite? I don't think it needs a new debuff. I think just the debuffs we have need to do better, right? Because that doesn't make these any better. You know, like bringing in a new verb doesn't necessarily make these any better. You know, it just means that you're going to play around that. Like if we knocked this off and added that, it would just mean that you're playing around that. Or these would become, again, a means to an end, which still doesn't feel good. Adds get damage resistance when frozen. From primary weapons, yes. Doing damage over time would be great for bosses. Yeah, they shatter automatically, but a little bit of extra damage over time would be good. Remove the DR and add damage over time when a frozen combatant shatters, spread slow to nearby enemies. Again, I think that should probably be an aspect or a fragment, not like default behavior, right? You build small, and then you let it expand bigger with aspects and fragments. Freeze needs to be a build-up which hurts Titans because they need a crystal or frozen target to do their thing. They can't be better without encroaching on Warlock. I disagree with that. I think one of the things that Stasis does really, really well is that each of the... Here, let me go back to my screen here.
What if we added a new debuff called Frostbite?
Yeah, address that. I think one of the things that Stasis does a really good job of is that each of the classes stay within their lane. They do a good job of each of these feeling very different from each other. The problem I have with Solar, and the reason why Solar and me generally don't see eye to eye, is that all of the Solar classes tend to be pretty identical to one another. You're running some type of Restoration, you're running some type of Scorch, and some type of Ignition. That's it, right? Like, Hunters play a little bit more around Radiant, but all of them generally play around Radiant too, just Hunter slightly more, you know what I mean? Like, all of the Solar classes play pretty darn similar to one another, which means that they end up being picked pretty much exclusively for their super, which is partially why Titans end up kind of sucking, because their super's not great. You have to run Pyro Gales in order to see value with it, right? But, yeah, I think what Stasis does a very good job of is that each of the individual classes play to their own strengths relatively well already. Would Stasis formations count as a buff? Maybe. Solar's all the same. Room go boom. Yep. Not bad. Just very consistent playstyle across all three. I think it's bad. Personally, I think it's bad. I think it's bad that each of the classes play pretty much identical to one another. Right? But it's fine for like one of the classes to do that. You know what I mean? Like if one of the classes kind of operates pretty close to each other, that's fine. I just don't think that should be the default behavior. I think every class should feel very different from each other. What if Shatter is more specific, so you need abilities, perks, fragments, mods from weapons or abilities in order to actually shatter, but without Shatter tools, you still have access to CC and damage over time? Maybe. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Stasis is supposed to be the crowd control class, right? Yes, exactly. More glaciers and grenade varieties. Cool ice patterns. That could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. All right, here, let me go to Titan here. We'll just look at our Titan because I feel like the drip on the Titan is very good. We can look at the rest of the stuff here. All right, so slows. Let me repeating from the top. From the top. Up. Give me the hand. So slows. We're gonna make this last longer and make it to where it generally stacks up a little bit longer. Also, probably make it to the effect that it applies. The slowed down fire rate and the reduced accuracy is probably a little bit stronger, just a little bit. When you're going to do the stupid builds from the Patreon. All right, so let me actually bring that up here, Agent. Thank you for bringing that up. Slight detour, everybody. There was a shockingly low turnout for that, and I don't know if people would be interested in it. So what I might do instead is I might play the build and give sort of live commentary on the build that I feel like was the most interesting, and then just post that to Patreon and YouTube itself. I don't know, but I was very shocked by the extremely low turnout on the Patreon post. Extremely low turnout, which means that probably people aren't that interested in it, and I need to pivot onto something else. I also probably might just supply y'all with the build and say, like, hey, here's something I've been messing around with, because I've got a couple of those in my back pocket. Be like, the interest in it is low. Here's something else instead. Okay? Anyway, back to business at hand. So, slows, talked about that. Freeze. First of all, remove the damage over time on frozen targets. Just toss it entirely. Honestly, but I know that it might not reflect the general community sentiment. Yeah, like there was 3 people who showed up, Agent. 3 people that showed up. And there was 1 upvote on each of them, which means that everyone is probably liking each other's posts. You know? Think slow rounds would help and not be bad for a fragment or aspect. Alright, anywho. Next up, I like the idea of a damage over time on frozen targets. Just a little bit of extra damage over time. Not a lot, just a little bit. Just like, it's not as much as Scorch, right? It's not as much as Scorch or like Unravel or something like that. But it's enough to make it feel good to keep a target frozen for a long period of time. See what I'm saying? How do we feel about that? And then we can address Shatter specifically on frozen targets, because I know that's one of the things we want to address. Dot would be nice, I agree. Would you call that frostbite? I mean, yeah, but it's not its own verb. It's just tied into freeze itself. That way we don't have to separate them out. Freeze should give a chunk of damage if you don't shatter them. Lower the damage, but make it at least the freeze worth something more than the pause. Yes. That's going to be more tied into the shatter itself, though. I think we're going to address making the targets explode through the shatter. Right? Like making certain fragments and aspects cause a shatter on targets after they've been frozen for a brief period of time. Whisper fragility. Frozen targets shatter more easily. Maybe whisper a frostbite. Frozen targets take more damage over time and then shatter. I think if slow did more to PvE combatants, like damage over time and reducing their damage output, maybe. Yeah, kind of like how Sever does. It's kind of an interesting thing. Like, what else is there to do? So we have reduced damage output. We have things like reduced damage input. We have increased damage output. We don't have increased damage input because that's dumb. We have chunk healing. We have smaller chunk healing. We have even smaller chunk healing. We have extra health plus damage resistance. Healing over time. Damage resistance pure. Damage resistance, but only from a certain part of the body. Damage resistance pure. Harder to hit. Deals more damage. Explosions are just generally things that apply some type of buff. Projecting a thing. Moving faster. You know what I mean? Call's talking how the Titans stream About changing out how Crystal Shatter or Titan specifically. Yeah, we're going to talk about the subclasses specifically here in a bit. We're talking about the verbs themselves here first. Okay. I think if Shatter itself was a more declared... Here, let me pull this. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. So if Shatter itself... Oh. Shatter does have a verb right here, right? You can see that it is a verb. The game considers it a verb. It's just weird that it's inconsistent, right? Because like Cryoclasm here specifically plays around Shatter, specifically, right? And then you get to like other things like this obviously works into Shatter, but this doesn't work around Shatter. Strangely, even though it does, right? It does specifically say Shatter. Or it is effectively Shatter. It's just weird that the verb isn't there. You know what I'm saying? It's odd that Shatter is present here, Shatter's present here, but then like when you get to the thing that is basically just Shatter, but more, it doesn't specifically play it around. But anyway, back to what I was trying to say. Let's make Shatter itself. There we go. Let's make Shatter itself be a thing that the frozen targets do. I think this would be best handled through aspects themselves. And I also think that Shatter, as it stands, is good enough. Just more things need to build around it. Like more aspects and fragments need to play specifically around modifying what Shatter's capable of. Correct me if I'm wrong, Frost Armor should have the highest resistance percent than Woven Mail on the fact that you have to stack it up. But let skilled players keep that high damage resist when they can. Yes, Frost Armor does, I believe, stack highest. If you play exclusively around it. I believe so. Somebody can correct me on that. Stasis feels frustrating because you just freeze or slow into a crawl. It's just not fun to play against because the counterplay is 9 non-existence. You freeze, end. Yeah, freeze doesn't feel good, but I think freeze is in a good spot in PvP. Like, you're talking about that from a PvP player's perspective, clearly. And I think freeze is in a good spot. Like, it's frustrating when you get frozen, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. Right? And it's so short that they have to be, like, on top of it. It's basically a kill, but not quite guaranteed. You know? And we already have, like, one-shot abilities anyway. And I feel like how Freeze ends up operating tends to operate close enough to be close enough to be balanced. Frost Armor Stacks 36% max, while Woven Mail is 45% base. Really? Are you talking that with the... Interesting. Those targets don't take as much damage from the Shatter itself. Damage nearby enemies more. I don't think Dragster Acolytes appreciate being frozen either. Right? We don't care about their opinions. What the hell do you think this is? Pretty sure Frost Armor is higher with the fragment, which it shouldn't be. I think, well, like it is, right? But with a fragment, it should be like the best in the game. And by default, it should probably stack up at least close to what Woven Mail does. The fact that it doesn't is very interesting. Anyway, so I feel like Shatter's in a good spot. It just more stuff needs to play around it, right? We can get there. All right, now we get into the weird buffs themselves. Think of it after target's frozen and they break out either via shattering or thawing. The slow stack should persist. Yeah, I think that should be an aspect. Call it deep freeze. Balloons terminology. Frost Armor goes to 36% with Whisper of Rhyme compared to Woven Mail's 45% DR. Is that actually really? Why? Why? Yeah, because I was trying to run the math. I'm like, no, I must be doing my math wrong because it's like 35%, isn't it? No, I'm sure I must be doing my math wrong. Frost Armor with the Fragment, I think, is still less than Woven, but theoretically can last a very long time. I mean, true. But, like, Stasis' whole thing is just being a tanky SOB, right? That's very interesting. Don't even need a pickup for Woven Mail. Yeah, like, literally just like an orb. You have Woven Mail, right? Doesn't Frost Armor affect headshots, though? No. That used to be a thing. It doesn't work like that anymore. Yeah, Woven Mail doesn't protect your crit. I mean, that's true. But we're talking for PvE. Which, like, you're only worried about snipers at that point, right? Because most enemies are going to body shot you. Frost Armor is just worse for harder uptime, yeah. Wolf of Mail doesn't cover your head, though, and Frost Armor heals you and keep it reprocking. The reprocking is the best part about it. The healing is very insignificant. And it has a cooldown, which is really annoying. These have cooldowns, and I don't know why. It really frustrates me that so much in the game has cooldowns. It really bothers me. But that's neither here nor there. I'd say Stasis is the crowd control class. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, like, I feel like it should also be, like, how Stasis is kind of set up. It should probably also be the damage resist class. Does it even count as headshots in PvE? I have no idea, the guy. It heals? Yes, a very small amount it heals. Someone whose main stasis hits beyond light, even through Lightfall. I'm not really sure why it has a reputation for being a tanky dude. It's like it's always been about battlefield control. I think it's both, right? Because Frost Armor is a thing, it's also a little bit about tankiness, right? Tammy. Hello, Tammy. Oh, update on millipedes. We have decided to name them Zol and Akka, probably Akka. Zol is the smallest one. Akka's the larger one. Akka's kind of stupid. Zol gets the idea of, like, walking around on a person's hand means that if you walk off the person's hand, you fall. Akka does not understand that. Akka just walked off my hand and fell to the carpet. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Anyhow. Alright, so, moving along. Let's talk about glaciers, because I feel like glaciers are kind of like in this weird middle ground. Keeper of Secrets isn't stupid, it only pretends. Yeah, I don't know. It also, Akka also might be constipated. PvE headshots do more damage. I know this as a fact. Use them as pet worms. Yes, I have 2 pet worm gods. Having either Tectonic, Glacier, or Grim Harvest is what gives you the health and the shard pickup. Yeah, you have to play around it, which is not the greatest idea for balance of the thing. Records to achieve Shatter Instant Freeze versus Frozen over time can change how the Shatter shatters. Nah, I feel like it should all end to the same spot. Anyway, let's roll on with what we're doing here, right? Okay, so Shatter itself, I feel like is fine. More aspects and fragments need to build around Shatter as a verb specifically, and do more things to augment it. But overall, it's generally fine. Sorry that my name is borderline sexual. I have no comment on that. You do whatever you want to do with that sweet business, man. Just keep me out of it. Glacier grenades and crystals, stasis crystals generally are odd because they're technically considered a verb. There are weapons that play around them. There are things that play specifically with stasis crystals, but they're odd in that it is hard to get them. Like Howl of the Storm, I think is the only way you can actually get a crystal out of nothing. Like something that didn't already previously provide a crystal. Like, I guess that and, like, Renewal Grasp as a thing, you know? Overall, Titans work around Shatter, Locks around Freeze, and Hunter's around Slow, which is why Hunter's the weakest. Reworked Salvation's Grip was for sure a step in the right direction. Yeah, I agree. Shatter, I think, should have less damage fall off. I feel like, even enemies that are close take nothing unless frozen first. The frozen does the extra damage because they're also shattering with it, right? Cadmus Bridge for free stasis for crystals. Yeah, that's true. I guess that's true. Headstone, yeah. Shattering a target launches the shards that home in on nearby enemies. Not a bad idea. But yeah, just generally, like, stasis crystals need something that makes them unique. I think it would be kind of cool, no pun intended, that stasis crystals emit a field of slowing near them. Or, like, that could be maybe an aspect or a fragment. Like, if you threw down a Glacier Grenade, and rather than them just being a pure source of damage, they slowed targets that got too close. Not by a lot, but just like a general slow. Something that didn't stack, right? But it just basically just applied slow. That way it operates differently than Duskfield, which is slowing over time, stacking up slows. This one is just like, a flat, like it's just 5x slow. That's it. It never goes more than that. It never goes above that. It never goes lower than that. It's just like when you're near a stasis crystal, yeah, like 35 slow. It's just like this tiny itty bitty bit of slow. That way you're encouraged to stay back and away from the wall. Right? And as you approach the wall, obviously you get slowed. So you kind of know what you're getting into. I'd actually love that idea. And then you could play a little bit more about how the stasis crystals end up operating too. That'd be nice. Once you shatter, you could spread the slow or freeze so it works around itself. Yeah, like that's the thing here, right? Like all of these slow, the Dusk Guild grenade ends up being the one that gets picked the most because it's all three of them. It's slow, freeze, and shatter technically, because slow is like the start of the engine, and all of the things build up towards it, right? Slow builds the freeze, freeze builds the shatter, right? Which is what the glacier grenades are trying to do. So back the old fragments that gave frost armor when standing near crystals. That's true. Yeah, you could also do that. Yeah. Heck, what if we did that instead? That's actually another idea. What if the glacier grenades themselves provided a source of, like a very small source, but a source nonetheless, of the frost armor. Like you wouldn't actually have to pick up a thing, just literally standing near it would slowly give you frost armor. Maybe one or the other. Like basically just like a mini version of like the epitome of stasis. Right? So glacier, like standing near a glacier grenade would only give you, it basically would give you one stack and then keep you at one stack while you're standing near it. Wasn't that a fragment we work? Nope. We have a fragment like that. I don't think you do. Correct me if I'm wrong. While you have frost armor, melee damage slows your target. Nope. Stasis weapons have a chance to create a stasis final blow. Nope. Rhyme is unchanged. Nope. That's unchanged. That's unchanged. Shatter. Oh, this one. Shattering a frozen target with a melee attack grants frost armor. I see. This is what you're doing. Okay. Well, this can be separate, right? And I feel like this is a good way to take it. Chains? No. Chains is while you have frost armor, it gives you stasis shards. Yeah, it used to work like that. Chains used to be that while you were standing near it, you'd get damage resistance. That doesn't work like that anymore. Wall of armor from a glacier grenade, right? Yeah, they changed chains to no longer work that way. Because I agree, they said that it was odd. Because chains was like auto-locked. Everyone chose chains. It was so good. Everyone chose chains. See what I'm saying? So they changed it to where chains operates more in line with everything else, where frost armor operated separately. Make chains like it used to be. I see what you're saying. So make it to where like the fragment operates and gives. Yeah, that's kind of a good idea. I like that idea. We'll circle back to that. Yeah, I like that idea. Okay. I like the idea of the glacier grenades themselves applying just a flat stack of unstacking slow to targets that approach it. Like, you have to be basically touching the crystal, but if you get close, you will get a small bit of slow. Changes hype? Yeah, I agree. Do we like that idea? That completely updates how stasis crystals operate entirely. So anything that creates a stasis crystal suddenly feels a little bit different. Frozen tongue effect, yeah. Instead of everyone uses one good aspect chain, it's now only one aspect harvest. Brilliant, yeah. Yeah, true. Change will grow up for a problem when we get to Titan. Maybe. I feel like the only thing Stasis needs to lose is the sharing properties on shards so that Bungie can take out the cooldown. It immediately smooth out the gameplay loop for every class. Evan, stay in this chat because if you're a main, it's helpful. So you're saying the only thing that Stasis needs is to lose the sharing properties on shards? That way Bungie can take out the cooldowns. Oh, so you're saying so that when you create the Stasis crystals, right now they give the melee energies to all classes, which is causing problems. But if they were to remove that and make it only to the class themselves, then you could actually crank it up. I think I see what you're saying. I agree with that. Do you play or just talk shit? For this stream, we're just going to talk shit. I mean, Stasis doesn't have Since Beyond Light. Perfect. I brought my cryo skate back. Right. What if Whisperer chains granted increased frost armor uptime from chaining together, freezes, and shatters? It's kind of something already. Something else already does that. Absolutely agree. It would make so much better without the cooldown. Yeah, I think I agree. I'm saying that as well. Shard should be personal and have the creation cooldown removed. Stasis more consistent. I think that's probably smart too. Yeah, because that's a good point. Like, Stasis is one of the only classes besides Strand that its pickups are universal, right? That goes to all the classes, which is odd. Personally, shards aren't personal. No. Personally, I feel like Stasis shards should supply energy to everything. And then the Ionic Traces should supply it just to the melees. Personally, I know that's not popular, but I think that's how it should operate. I know that's kind of like a, well, I feel like it should be this way thing, right? Because the logic here being is that Arc is pretty exclusively built around melees. Like, that's kind of its thing. Arc really likes melees as a job, right? Like, a lot of the fragments, aspects, and such pretty much build exclusively around melees. Whereas, like, Stasis kind of plays around everything, but it's odd that it gives exclusively melee energy as opposed to everything energy. Even if it was like this tiny, itty-bitty little bit, right? Like, every Stasis shard pickup was like 2% or something like that, so 5 was 10%, which is most people are getting about 10, 5 of them picked up anyway, right? It would kind of kill Arc Warlock, though. The ability uptime was the entire gimmick, but I also see that would be good for the Stasis. Right, well, you could also make it to where the Electrostatic Mind on Arc Warlock picks up for everything, right? That way it doesn't affect the class that it gets hurt by. I actually kind of like that as a general thought process, right? Whereas if Electrostatic Mind, like, because currently speaking, Electrostatic Mind, you are only really using that so that you can generate more Ionic Traces. You don't really care that much about the Amplified, because you're probably going to be amplified anyway, right? But if it was more useful to pick it just so you can get, ability energy to everything, that might be a little bit better. And now I know that that's going to be like, well, I like Arc Warlock or Arc Titan and Arc Hunter, to have that option to get into access those things. We've already done a bit of a rework discussion talking about Arc in general, and I think if Arc was just generally better, using Ionic Traces wouldn't feel so damn necessary. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that's something that comes up as an argument, which is completely valid, right? It's like, well, you're nerfing Hunters and Titans for the sake of this parity between everything, right? It's like, well, I think it only feels necessary because Arc Hunter and Arc Titan, need it in some capacity, right? Whereas if they were just generally a little bit better, it might not be necessary at all. Anyway, Jesse, I'm going to let that read out its message. I'm going to let Brian read out your message here. Amp should be slightly harder to get. You should go watch our video. That'd be similar to how they made Feed the Void provide the original Devour buff. Yep, exactly. Okay, anyway, so Stasis Crystals. Did my pen die? Did my pen literally just die while... Oh, there we go.
Let's watch some Gamescom. Let's get some more video game hype.
Maybe we could do some Gamescom stuff. I guess I wouldn't mind doing something like that. Maybe that could be fun for a stream or two. Need stuff to do anyway, right? Alright, crystals. Not this stream, obviously, for the Gamescom. Slow. Flat. Near. Cool. Alright, bringing back up our bit here. So we've talked about the glaciers themselves. We've addressed these. We've addressed glaciers. Now let's address frost armor. Stasis is weird in that frost armor operates as both a pickup. Stasis crystals themselves, or the shards themselves, operate as a major part of the kit, which means that if you don't play around it, it can feel a little bit weird. You do get ability energy for... Oh. What the hell? Am I still logged in? Right when I went to reply to that message, my restream chat just died out. Chat, can you still hear me? Am I still online? Somebody say something. Here, hold on. Somebody say something. Can you guys still hear me? My chat still working? Yep. You're still up? Weird. Yeah, literally as I went to reply to that message, my restream went, oh, you're going to have to log in now. Okay, that was weird. Hold on, let me log in, I guess, real quick. Let me go to that. Really odd. Let me go to this screen here real quick. One sec. I'm gonna mute. Oh no. It's a CAPTCHA. Oh, damn it.
When slowed opponent at rate/aggression lowered.
They do fire slower, and they have lower accuracy. That is already a thing that they do. So it's already similar to that. Could make it to where it does its job, but better, though. You know? Can you log me back in? Alright, the chat is back up. That was really weird. Okay, cool. Alright, anyway, moving right along. Moving right along. So, this is where things get a little odd for the classes and such. Because, technically speaking, like, actually, this almost shows all of them. This is really nice. Tectonic Harvest shows almost all of them. The only thing it's missing here is slow. This is nice. So, technically speaking, Stasis Shard is its own thing. It's a pickup, right? But it's unique in that the pickup is more tied to the class's operation than anything else. It's not like Void Breaches. It's not like Fire Sprites. It's not even like Ionic Traces, which are kind of more special too. You know, like this is its own thing. But the pickup itself kinda sucks ass. Can we agree that the pickup kinda sucks ass? Hold on, why is my chat is frozen? Hold on. Did we desync? Here, chat, try saying something real quick. Hold on, I think my chat desynced when it logged me out. It's terrible. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're back. 100%. It's mid. Yes, completely. Yeah, it kind of sucks ass, which is confusing to me. You know, because it's like you've made it such an integral part of the whole kit, and then it sucks ass. Why? Why does it suck so much ass? So what do we do? I don't have a problem with it. Zach, I want to know why. Because you got a lot of people who agreed with me here, and I know that I'm the funny streamer man, so it's possible that we might get an echo chamber going, but I want to hear why. The only time I care about the Stasis melee most of the time was with Revenant Hunter with Whisper of Impotence. That's why conduction's necessary. But yeah, if we have any people who enjoy Stasis Shards, I want to know why. Like, what is it? Because, like, not just, like, to, like, oh, I want to prove this person wrong. Just, like, what is it that you like about it so that we can hold on to that? It's ass because the Stasis melees are also pretty ass. That is very true. That is actually very real of you. It's an ingredient to fragments, yes. Problem with most pickups, you need to risk your cover for a small chunk of ability to maybe a buff effect. Yeah, true. Yeah, you need to pop them and stay close to pick up, right? And even then you have 2 charge, you're not going to need it, right? Charge nice for the armor, but that's about it. Titan melee is awful. That's true, that's true. We can address that when we actually get to the classes themselves, though. Current state of Stasis Shards, it could be a fragment. It kind of is. It is. There are a lot of things that are fragments about it. But Stasis Shards are just kind of odd. Probably need a new buff here. Probably could use a whole separate buff and then just let Stasis Shards go off and frolic in the fields. Factor in Witch Queen, there was a period where stasis shards could be used to infinitely loop Howl to Storm during Elemental Well mods. It's no longer a build path anymore, however. Right, but that's more of like Elemental Wells doing their thing. Only thing about the pickups was that they counted as orbs of power in that one artifact mod, but maybe that could work into it somehow. Well, we have like the Elemental Charge mod, which is probably the best thing about Stasis and the pickups in general, is the Elemental Charge mod, right? Because you get the ability to get basically a guaranteed fire off of the Elemental Charge, i.e. a Charge of Light or an Armor Charge from the Stasis stuff, right? Because it's pretty easy to get them. Shiver. Shards need to be treated like pickups. Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Is like the shards need to be treated like a pickup themselves. Just make it a pickup and stop trying to make shards into its own separate thing. Those where conduction should be inherent. Shards could also be inherent to each class creation-wise. I agree with that. I think that if conduction was default behavior, it would look a lot better. Let shoot the loot work on pickups. Yeah, I'm surprised they don't. I don't ever use shoot the loot, so I have very little experience with it. I know it works on orbs, right? I like that can be modified to track. Yeah, I think that should probably be default behavior. Shards do charge grenades with the fragment. No, they don't. That's actually false. They charge when you break a crystal. If they did, that would be pretty cool. But they don't. You have to actually just break the crystal. It doesn't actually require you to pick up anything. What I'm saying is that shards counting as an orb of power made hunters with Agriceptor OP infinite super modes for Aggers. Ah. I see. They make fragments that attract to the crystals like the stat points do. Yes, they have a fragment for it. My issue with stasis shards is that they are near necessary for stasis for defense and survival, so you have a pigeonhole into making them, right? You're kind of forced to make them, right? Actually, I feel like ice water counts as soup since it's water floating with solids in it. Alright, mods, stick them up back. What happened to the fragment that gave nade energy when receiving damage? That's Torment. It's this one right here. That's just taking damage generically, though. That doesn't do anything else outside of that. But it would be cool. I do like the idea of stasis shards just generally giving more things with fragments and stuff. But I think conduction should be a default behavior. So, stasis shards. Shards. Pen, could you work for just 2 seconds, please? Shards. Conduction by default. And then we'll put a pin in this here and say fragment modification for later. Okay, cool. Torment is fantastic, to be fair. Yes, I agree. Torment is fantastic. Conduction being by default would be great, TBH. I agree. Okay, moving on to this. I think that these should probably be broken up. These should probably be broken up. Because Frost Armor does give damage resistance, but it also gives healing at the same time. Not necessarily that they need to be broken up in terms of like what they do, but if there was a way to play into one or the other, or if there was just more ways of getting a heal or something like that, that might be better. What do we feel about this? Titans have the intrinsic stasis behavior of being able to have more stacks of Frost Armor and being prickly when they have it, like a stasis spikes attached. That's kind of cool. I like the idea of thorns. Hold up. Touch of Malice might be cooking. Thorns from Minecraft would be a really cool thing to do for that. There's nothing else that operates like that. That's a really cool idea. Yo, what if that might be like a fragment thing? That's a really cool idea. Hold on, I'm writing a note for that. That's a really cool, that's just dope. I just like that. It's like ACD zeros, right? Let Frost Armor last longer rather than give me heals. Maybe. It's a bit annoying to get Frost Armor in general. I never really notice it. Yeah, it's pretty small. But mostly you're a PvP player though, but yeah, it's pretty small. Yeah, Frost Armor should go up. Yeah, I agree. Your Frost Armor has a slow aura. That'd be another great fragment. Or maybe just like taking melee damage with, while you have Frost Armor causes a slow. Separating healing but giving more defense. Maybe, yeah. We need to be able to focus on Stasis since Frost Armor rework. Yeah, I've tried it. It's hard to build around it. So I can have some build advice. I've tried it. It's very difficult. Frost Armor can have a different effect on each class. Well, I think that should be more of a fragment aspect thing, right? They remove the healing, but make it so that as long as Frost Armor is active, you won't take damage from the threshold on red. Ooh, that's interesting. So it keeps you alive no matter what. Or Frost Armor Shattering and it runs out. I kind of like that idea. Maybe we remove the healing altogether, but like while you have Frost Armor. That's interesting. Like, yeah, while you have Frost Armor, it's impossible for you to actually die.
It doesn't make sense that the elemental pickup for Stasis is the only one that requires an aspect to really work.
Yep, I agree.
All other ones require fragments.
Yep, I agree. There are ways to get the not Frost Armor specifically, but the shards. I know what you're saying, though. There are ways to get the shards here. Right? Stasis Armor and stuff. Or they're right here. Stasis Shards here. Sorry is what I meant to say. Stasis Shards. There are a way to get Stasis Shards outside of it. But it's just a little wacky. I think the old shield format for shards is easier. Frost Armor shouldn't heal. Just it's an ice class. Doesn't make sense. It should get overshield. It used to give overshield. I think they're trying to make that a void thing, though. No Grass Hunter build could do with that. I'm gonna be freaking immortal, right? Not being able to die would be broken in PvE, though. To a point. Like, I'm wondering, because I really like the idea of, like, it preventing death in a weird way. The shards themselves are just so weak. Maybe it's just a damage resistance thing. Frost Armor keeps you alive like being in a cryo chamber, right? Like, maybe, like, when you get to critical health, you, ooh, wait a minute. Chat. How did Aramis die? Having Frost Armor instead giving you like 2 seconds of invincibility would actually not be too bad. It would be really busted in PvP, though. Chat, how did Aramis die? She didn't. Well, I say quote-unquote die. How did we defeat Aramis? And yes, I agree. She didn't. Froze. Exactly. All right. Idea. What if the stasis giveth and the stasis taketh away? The freeze. Yes. What if while you had Frost Armor and you took what would have been lethal damage outside of things that just outright kill you, like a white mechanic, right? What if you took lethal damage? It would freeze you, removing all stacks. So, like, if you're in a position where, like, you would have died, you end up getting frozen instead. And you have, like, a moment to potentially save yourself. Size like Inaros from Warframe. Calm down, Sub-Zero. I mean, the idea's been well explored within fiction, is what you're saying. Maze mechanics. Sure. Kind of a similar idea. Maze more like a I chose this thing. Right? That'd be kind of cool, though. Like, think about it. Like, you're sitting there fighting. You're sitting there brawling. Gotta head out. It's been fun for the first stream. Hey, well, good to have you. Good to have you. Thanks for the 2. Reinfrozen also gives the Guardian a massive overshield until they shatter. True. Kind of leaning into self-res territory. Bungie might not like that. Well, the thought process here is rather than it being something where, like, you basically are going to die anyway. It's just like a very small second chance. So I kind of like the idea if you took lethal damage, you'd freeze, right? It gives you like a mild moment of set. You're probably dead anyway, because being frozen with critical health is probably a death sentence. But it's like, there's a chance. You know? There's a moment where you're like, oh, I might be able to make it. I might live. Martyrdom from COD, right? I'd red health. Your frost armor shatters and freezes all enemies in the radius. Well, it could be a thing too, right? Where like you basically, because you're freezing yourself, you could play around your own freezes. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. People don't seem to be super on board with it. I think it's cool, but that's fine. It's fine. But if you see your teammates freeze, you can throw them a heal nade or something. Yeah. I mean, like, again, they're probably going to die anyway. Critical health, you're probably out in the open. It would prevent more of the situations, though, where, like, if you're getting behind cover, you took damage right as you got behind cover, though. That would win melee duels? Not really, because you would still end up... well, I guess what you're saying if you punched at the exact same time, right?
I got to head out. It's been fun for first stream.
Yee. Good to have you, bro. Read shatter on the shield. Okay, alright. So probably just better. A probably better way to take it is probably just more just damage resistance by default. Yeah. Probably just more damage resistance. Be cool with that. Arc's supposed to be amplified. At least 100, not others. There's no extra support when you gotta rush. A shard in the middle of a fight. Yeah. Okay. Probably just higher damage resistance though. Let's just keep it there. Okay. Correct, because a melee does not currently put you on critical damage, right? Okay. Yeah, definitely higher DR. Just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. Okay. Talked about frost armor. It's kind of annoying that frost armor shows up twice, but it's whatever. Right? It does a little bit of both. It's fine. It's its own thing. Okay. So let's reiterate on the things that we've done. Now we can start getting into class-specific stuff. Class-specific stuff. So, to reiterate, we've talked about slows generally lasting longer and stacking a little bit slower to actually get to the freeze, and probably making slows effect more powerful by default. Removing the damage resistance on frozen targets, and making targets that are frozen take a slight damage over time. Crystals, stasis crystals, crystals will now slow whenever a target is near a flat amount. It will not stack. It'll just rest at a particular amount when you get close enough to it. Right? Like something small, like maybe 20, 30 stacks, somewhere around there. Okay? And then we mentioned that shards, stasis crystal shards, is probably here. By default, have the Whisper of Conduction just behavior, where they track to your position by default, making them a lot easier to use. And then Frost Armor, which we're going to play more around here when we get to the Fragment Aspect reworks. Frost Armor just generally gives higher damage resistance. At least at max stacks matching Woven Mail. At least at max stacks. That way you can stay alive a little bit better. Ice Lances should count as a powered melee hit to give them more utility. Sure, we can talk about that. 30, almost 1/3 of a freeze. Yeah, it would never go higher than that. It would just chill. Haha, chill right there. Okay. Which subclass do we want to address first? Which of the classes should we address first? The initial slow, a touch of Winter Duskfield would be fun. That would be nice, yeah. The conduction, attract shards from farther so it still has use. No, I think we just give it something different altogether. We'll get there though. Or do we address fragments first? Ooh, or do we adjust fragments first? Hold on, wait. Before we get into this discussion, do we want to talk about the classes or do we want to talk about fragments first? Fragments might be better Fragments might be better because that's like universal to all the classes. What do we feel? Fragments? Okay, I think fragments are probably the play here. Let's go talk about some fragments. Abrahamiya Diamond Lance changed to be universal option like Tangles. Stasis final blows create Diamond Lances. You know, I kind of like that. Hold up. Wait. Hold up. Astria's kind of cooking. Hold up. The Titan Diamond Lance aspect throws out multiple lances with one throw. Hold on. What do we feel about that? Diamond Lance is basically becoming one of the choices here. Taking up one of these. Similarly operating how Tangles. Fragments? Yep. Well, we'll touch on fragments here, but I want to address this idea because I kind of like that idea. How do we feel about that? How would we feel if Diamond Lances became more of a universal thing, and then like the Titans Diamond Lances were the best version of it? Take more from Behemoth? No, it's more that the Stasis... Well, first of all, Stasis Titan's going to get a massive update, right? Like, at least through our proposals. If we worked at Bungie kind of deal, right? If we had budget and we worked at Bungie, like, Stasis Titan's going to get an update. So, like, even though we'd be taking away 1, we'd be giving 5. It's the only thing Titans have. Well, that's a temporary problem, or at least it could be. But like it's purely a strand identity? No, because here's my argument. And this is partially why I like this. Both of these are darkness subclasses. Both of these play around crowd control. Right? If Diamond Lances were a little bit more of an available thing, a slightly more available thing, it would make sense. Like the cohesion between these two would stack up a little bit better. Throwables are cool, but they are classified as an elemental pickup, so IDK how it would be. Well, it could be operated a little bit differently. Yeah, I like the idea of Strand and Stasis kind of mirroring each other a little bit. Titan Diamond Lance turned into a Thunderclap kind of attack. So here's what I'm thinking here. On Hunters and Warlocks, which they would have some way of getting access to the Diamond Lance. When they would pick it up, it would only slow. It wouldn't freeze. So when you went to like splat it down in an area, it would slow them rather than freezing them. Whereas the Titans one would actually freeze. Maybe even freeze and shatter. Like it would freeze the target and then shortly thereafter shatter the target too. Because it can currently shatter it. Let me bring up Diamond Lance here. Jarvis, bring up Diamond Lance. Let me get this pulled up here. Let Shatter break your teammates at a hard CC. A Cure effect I feel like makes more sense on Solar. I kind of see what you're getting at though. I don't think that it's the only thing that the Behemoth Titan has that's good, but I think that Behemoth Titan gains a ton of flavor for being an exclusive holder of it. I agree. If not, then I definitely want the Titan melee that has a Thunderclap style that charges up a Diamond Lance, increases the freeze radius on how much you hold it. Make it universal and then give Titan aspect throw multiple Diamond Lances at once and give the ability to charge the Diamond Lance so that it creates a shattering explosion. Right. Shatter or defeated targets create stasis lance, throwing the freeze targets. Slam lance on the ground to freeze area in a small target. So it's freeze on both. It doesn't actually shatter. Shows you how much Diamond Lance I end up using. I barely touched this thing. Diamond Lance could create a crystal instead of freezing. Yeah, maybe something like that. That's kind of like a Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap thing. Similar to the Wanderer for Warlock, everyone can use Tangles, but the Warlocks can enhance them with the aspect. Yeah, it's similar to that. I like that idea. I actually really like that, because the Diamond Lances are very unique, and they're only available on Titans, which is cool, right? It's good that these things have class uniqueness, right? But this could be a thing that other classes get use out of, with just a lesser degree, and then we could buff Diamond Lance to be stronger. Lance is reworked to shatter. Ah, cool. Diamond Lance should be default for all classes. Yeah, okay. I kind of like that. Yeah, all right. I kind of vibe with that. And I think what we should do, generally speaking, is just make it to where... Maybe it's consistent, though. Yeah, what's the shatter on it? If they're already frozen, you slam it down or splash them with it and it shatters. Can somebody give me the 411? I do not Diamond Lance at all. Shame you don't use Diamond Lance's shockingly strong aspect that really enhances gunplay. I don't Titan much. That's the first thing. So I don't Titan much. I don't Stasis much. Those two combined mean that I just never touch Diamond Lance, even on Prismatic. And I don't touch Prismatic. I tend to focus on the more single stuff. Like, obviously, I've played with it. Obviously, I played with Prismatic. I know, I know how to talk about Prismatic in an intelligent way. It's just not my personal play style. I don't prefer it. No. Diamond Lances don't shatter anything. Only on crystals. Okay. Lance feel out of place on Titan since it kind of came out of nowhere. This would help. Yeah, I agree. I Titan, but I don't Diamond Lance much, right? Yeah, shatters if you slam on frozen targets. Okay, that's what I thought it did. That's what I thought it did. So I'm glad I'm at least somewhat on board there. Okay, anyway. So, Lances. More available. Universal. I'll just say universal. Cool. So, I think Diamond Lance by default... Well, actually, let's think about this here for a second. What would the default Diamond Lance behavior be? And then I guess we can start looking at this through Titans. What would the default Diamond Lance behavior be? Would it freeze or would it slow? I feel like we have a lot of sources of slow, but not a lot of sources of freeze. Diamond Lance Exotic makes it good, right? Diamond Lance Slam has more steps than Hunter Shatter Dive. It's true. Yeah, so freezing behavior by default is probably a little bit better. Default Diamond Lance class specific. Yeah, just like the new rework for the Diamond Lance. I think it should just leave the freeze. Yeah. Just a throwable. Leave the debuff should be dependent on the subclass. So I'm thinking that, like, all right, Diamond Lance is cool. Diamond Lance is fun. Diamond Lance is powerful. But what if it was more so? What if the Titans version of Diamond Lance was more so? Hear me out, right? We're going to get to the aspects. We're actually kind of jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit. What if when you threw the Diamond Lance down, it did like a mini version of the Titans Behemoth Slam, where it would do just 3 crystals in front of where it hit? So it sort of would hit the ground, freeze, and then 3 little crystals would spawn in front of it, wherever it was landing from. Here, let me actually take this down to orbit here for a sec. I need something that would be good for a pointer tool. Hard light, ironically, would be good. Zach Bourne with the great point. Okay, hold up. Think Titan should make crystals with the lance. Yes, exactly what I stated. Warlocks freeze, hunters should slow their own unique diamond lances. Yeah, I agree. So maybe the default behavior is slow, and then if you play around it, if you build around it, it freezes or creates the crystals or whatnot. Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So, yeah, you know what? We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll talk about that. Let's move on. Now that we've agreed that we've got the Diamond Lance as a thing, let's move on to the fragments themselves. We can also keep this in mind. Already gives Diamond Lance stasis crystals, but more so. Why not more? Yeah, bake that in. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's just start from the top or work our way down. Hedrons. Dramatically increases weapon stability, blah, 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 blah. When you freeze a target with stasis. So, this seems fine. This reminds me of... What is it? The other one. I feel like this should probably just instantly reload your weapons, too. Because we've got... If we go over here... Oh, that's not what I wanted. Why didn't you... Okay, whatever. Freezing or suppressing a target reloads your equipped weapons, increases the blah, 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 blah. Right? I feel like this should probably just mirror what we've got going on with Facet of Command. Hedrons has slept on, it's crazy good. No, I'm not saying that it's slept on. I agree. It's very good. It's very good. I'm a big Hedrons fan. But I feel like it should just mirror what Facet of Command is doing. Hell, it's an overlaid symbol of the Hedron symbol, right? Like, look. It's just Hedrons overlaid. But if freezing a target also reloaded the weapons and operated similarly to how Facet of Command already does, I think that would be good. Impetus already reloads. Hedrons increases stats. Impetus is this one, right? Damaging a target with stasis melee reloads your stowed weapons and grants you a temporary. Yeah, that's a lot harder to pull off. That's a lot harder to pull off. I feel like Impetus in general feels kind of meh. Because, like, there's so many other ways of doing something like this. Whereas this is just, like, something that's universal to all the classes as an option. Hunters get snowballs. They kind of already do. Do you think Hedrons is a better pick than other fragments is a thing? Yeah, I think a Hedron's buff to just keeping everything it's currently doing. Everything it's currently doing. Right? But also make it to where whenever you freeze a target, it reloads the weapons. Would make it feel a little bit better. Because all the classes are capable of freezing. Not all the classes. Okay, so ironically, this Impetus ends up being the most beneficial for Hunters. Because they get 2 of them, right? So they can rocket, Impetus, rocket, or whatever, right? Whereas this is something that is much more universal for all of them. Because, like, all the classes could run Cold Snap grenades if they wanted to. Right? And then freeze the boss for damage setups. Rocket, Cold Snap, rocket. Right? It's the same exact idea, but it universalizes the ability to get that reload, that instant reload. Because, like, good luck. On a Titan, good luck if this is a boss that just denies melees from close range in general. Or it is extremely risky to step outside that well. Make it reload weapons but have the same cooldown as command. Yes, exactly. 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 Let me get some notes down here. Just realized Stasis has reload on melee. Strand has reload on grenade. So that means the third Darkness subclass will have reload on class ability. Ooh, good read. No, let me reload my sword by punching this boss. Right, you need to reload that sword. Impetus should work on Whisper of Reversal. And the Shadow aspect should work on the Whisper of Fractures and Impetus. Well, like, the thing, too, like, hear me out. Hear me out, right? Like, you're afraid that you're going to lose Impetus, right? But, like, here's the thing. If you're a hunter playing around Duskfield grenades, that you likely are, right? That's a thing that you probably are doing. You will be able to get this arguably as frequently and maybe not even more frequently than Impetus as it is right now, because you could throw the Duskfield grenade, fire a rocket. The Duskfield's probably slow to target by then. Or you could throw a shuriken in there into the mix, fire another rocket. It would probably get one more slow off by the time it's done. Fire another rocket. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bigger investment overall. Reload on class ability just makes marksman's dodge. That's true. And I thought new Warlock Stasis Super, that's basically the original Nova Bomb with a scatter thing. Basically 3 Nova Bombs, but since it's Stasis, can immediately shatter on targets IDK. That's kind of cool. Alright, but how do we feel about the Hedrons being a reload on freeze? That's an idea. How do we feel about that? Not the Gathering Storm kind of super for Stasis Titan that throws a Diamond Lance at them, starts making crystals, a star pattern, shattering them repeatedly. Cool, good. Seems fine. Okay. All right. Fissures. Increase the size. Okay, so this... Let's just, like, cut the crap on this. Increase the damage and size of shattered whenever you shatter a crystal. Whenever you shatter a target. Right? Just basically just tie the shatter word into here. Increase shatter damage and size. Just... Literally, this would do nothing else other than what it already does. Right? Just increase shatter size. Impetus releases a burst that slows. Yeah, maybe. Combine Hedrons and Impetus. Let them buff each other that way. Word it correctly. Yeah, basically keep it as is because this is a perfectly fine, perfectly usable fragment. Just word it correctly. The only issue is that would break the Agger's build due to the catalyst. But you can already do it on Prismatic. Like, I see where you're coming from, and that's a valid point, but you can do that on Prismatic, and I don't think that's breaking anything. Make it intrinsic to Titans and make the crystals make an X pattern charge when it explodes. Yeah, I think that the X pattern shards might be the better way to go about it. I think I see what you're saying. Make the default shatter damage. I know the guy. I know it got. Wait, what? Make that the default shatter damage. I know it got probably buffed, which was nice, but just add it to this. Fisher should just be default for reference. That fragment adds a flat plus 25 damage to all shatters and extra damage for its own. In case anyone was wondering. Evan, as a Stasis Titan main, dost thou think that this fragment in current state is worth using at all? Agger's Catalyst lets it work on other subclasses, just extra on Stasis, true. Saying it's underpowered but freeze, an overload champion chasing you down, and you'll likely see it differently. Talking about Aggers? Talking about what? When I'm having it make those ice shards that fly out last season. Yeah, I think that's probably the play. I think that's probably the play. Alright, Fishers. X pattern. Cool. Moving on. Give Titans the ability to make stasis crystals automatically shatter when formed. Yep, we're going to get there. That's actually something we talked about in the Titan video. We're going to get there. Alright, refractions. Defeating slow to frozen targets grants you class ability energy. This seems fine. This plays into the whole class ability energy thing. This seems fine. I use it for Lance Cap because it bumps the crystal damage from 175 to 200. It makes using lances on champions give more than the ignition's worth of damage. After they buff ignitions... after they buffed the enemy's shatter damage, that is. Less necessary than it was before. I see. They have 68 kills in Salvation Grip, but confirm that Fishers isn't really worth it. Okay. I'll put a note here to say default. Okay. Refractions is a weird one. It allows you to get the class ability stuff, though. So this seems fine. I think that this generally operates in a fine spot. Maybe it could give more or whatever, right? But, like, class abilities aren't really something... Like, the hard thing with this aspect in particular... Trying enemies, the bump damage is unnoticeable, right. The hard thing with this in particular is that all the things that you're really trying to build around for stasis stuff, ironically, as a good example, Icefall Mantles, right? Bacchus is another one, the helmet. All make it to where this is harder to work with because you have a cooldown. You know, like all of them have a cooldown. That's more of a fault of the actual exotics themselves. I think just stasis is super boring. We're fixing it. Whisper of Durance. Slow that you apply it on the target lasts longer for those abilities that linger. Their duration is also increased. Well, being that slow is getting better, this is probably fine. Right? We don't need to worry about that. Whisper of Bonds. Frozen targets generate an orb of power. This is fine. I also think that it can drop a stasis shard. I don't know why it doesn't, frankly. But if it also did a stasis shard too, just like one singular stasis shard, probably be fine. Honestly, it could probably be a stasis shard and completely remove the intellect debuff. But then I guess that kind of encroaches on Warlock's territory, right? Like that starts to be a Warlock thing. Well, that's also pretty bad that this being a fragment starts to look a little bit like a Warlock aspect with literally one very small change. Technically a nerf overall. To buff refractions to make a class ability specific stasis cooldowns. Example, as a stasis version of Phoenix Dive and Acrobat's Dodge. Whisper Bronze should have a lower cooldown. It's 10 seconds cooldown, yeah. A quicker cooldown would be nice. I think something that's worth mentioning through one of these two, maybe this can happen through bonds, probably, maybe this can be through impetus or conduction. Actually, it's not a bad idea through conduction. They can make an orb and shard together. Okay, hear me out for conduction here, because we obviously tied this into the default behavior of the shards. What if conduction gave you the equivalent of picking up 3 stasis shards when this is equipped? So this would read, picking up an orb of power grants you stasis shards. Or orbs of power operate like stasis shards. That way, if you are playing these two together, they actually have a little bit more synergy with each other. And then this staying as it is with a quicker cooldown could potentially be a little bit easier to work with. Collecting a stasis shard would reduce the cooldown. So elemental pickup in reverse. Right. Or we could make it to where, well, I know we're kind of jumping ahead here. We could make it to where picking up an orb of power grants frost armor just by default. Or we can make it to where picking up an orb of power grants your weapon chill clip. Or like slows. Because the thing that's kind of interesting is that all the other classes, this has volatile rounds, this has radiant, which is not technically the same, but you know, radiant is kind of close to it, right? This doesn't operate this way, but you know, this arc sucks. Unraveling rounds, right? We don't have a stasis version of this. We have unraveling rounds, volatile rounds, radiant. Don't technically have a jolt volt shot thing pick up here, but you know, again, arc sucks. So maybe if the conduction here operated like that, where picking up an orb of power gave you like a slowing shot. So clip on a 900 RPM SMG would be overpowered, man. Make it the first shot then. Just make it like the next shot fired. So it's like a flat amount. Granting chill clip would be way better. Yeah, even if it was something simple like your next shot slowed targets. So it didn't matter what you ended up shooting them with. So if it's an SMG, it would just like, the first hit would slow them down. Shadow rounds that explode on impact. Not quite. I think that might be a little much. Because that's like just a massive bonus damage right on the top. Would be really strong. Right. So like maybe just like the first shot. Just the next shot grants a slow. While the buff is active. Or perhaps the more useful version of this, the more complete but harder to program version of this, would be that depending on the magazine size, would depend on how much the slow actually causes. Right? So if it's like a 900 RPM SMG, let's say that it has 30 in the mag, the first 15 would only grant 2 per hit. And it only lasts 6 seconds. Right? So like on the rapid fire weapon, it provides a much slower. But if this was like a sniper rifle, you know, like one of the slower firing sniper rifles, the 2 rounds together would provide a slightly higher amount, something like that. Personalized conduction as is. Well, we've suggested to tie conduction into default behavior, so conduction's useless now with this rework. So basically, if you like conduction, the idea that we proposed made it default. Make it to where weapons use different amounts. That would be with that first shot. That sounds more balanced. Maybe on a cooldown like volatile, yeah. Scale to the damage and make it last with the mag's worth. Maybe not the mag's worth, because I think it needs to operate similarly to how chill clip works. Or I guess I see what you're saying. It's just like it's a flat amount. What would that do a weapon with chill clip? Double the chill clip. Yes. So if you already had a weapon, let's say you have a Riptide with chill clip, you pick up an orb. Instead of requiring 3 like it does right now, it would only require 2, maybe 1 to freeze a target. I don't know. Have conduction do what it kind of says. Conduct bullets so you can shoot through stasis crystals. Arc is the worst. Agreed. Anyway, so Whisper Bond's probably fine as is. Oh, hold on. I'm being messaged by My Name is Bife. We're going to be recording spicy clips. Okay, cool. The ads. Sorry about the ads, bro. Okay. Whisper of Shards. Shattering a crystal gives energy. I think this is fine. We have Headstone. Isn't like volatile or Scorch. Yeah, that could be kind of cool too. Yeah, that could be kind of cool too. We're recording spicy clips today, maybe. Join late, why Stasis is bad. The community generally tends to agree that it's bad. It's along the bottom. Shadebinder, Revenant, Behemoth all kind of share bottom spots. Yeah, I think Shards is fine as is. I agree. Totally fine as is. Moving on. Chains. Somebody suggested that this operates similarly to how it did in the past, where standing near a stasis crystal gives you the frost armor, which I think is pretty cool. I also think that chains might be better off just giving you frost armor for just picking up a stasis shard. Like, just making this more of a thing that is built into the fragment by itself. Thinking more about fissures, why not change it to the artifact perk? Yes, that's what we decided on. Chains granting frost armor for using abilities. Not a bad idea. I feel like that's kind of outside of what Stasis already does, though. It's kind of a little outside the norm. Make it slowly ramp up like renewals. I feel like that encroaches on renewals a little too much. Just basically, while you're standing near a stasis crystal, you have a stack of frost armor. If that's being near crystals, wouldn't that intrude on Hunter? Not at all, because that's an exotic. The longer you're standing near the crystal, the more armor you get. No, I think it should be just a flat stack. Just one stack. Like that, instead of chains, give frost armor. Don't have the timer go down. Yeah. So basically, it keeps your thing going. Change it to the stacks on stacks of frost armor. Right. Make it so it holds frost armor stacks as long as you're near a crystal. Yeah, exactly. Change should allow your frost armor to spread to allies while resisting its duration for doing so. I think that should be a Titan-specific thing. Chaining it together sounds good. What do you mean by that, Wolfang? Talking about keeping it up, like whenever you have... standing near a stasis crystal while you have frost armor maintains your frost armor. But I like the idea of it just keeping it at 1 stacks. Like whatever... it adds 1 stack to whatever you've got, and it just keeps it there. Okay, so it just keeps the stack. We like that then. Cool. All right. Torment. Torment is good. Torment is cool. And this is partially... this fragment is also partially why I feel like Stasis is meant to be more of the tank. Because this is a very unique thing that it does. Yeah, I feel like this is totally fine as is. And also it plays around amplifying frost armor. Cool. Torment is very good. Yep, agreed. I don't think this needs to be touched at all. Fractures. Shattering a frozen target with a melee grants a stack of frost armor. Cool. I feel like this is good as is. Just please bunch of revert the nuffs from final shape. Least shard cooldown. Yes, that would fix a lot of this. True. Strand does the same. Nope. It does it opposite. I think Fractures is good. Tournament with Mask of the Quiet One is actually surprisingly decent off-meta pick. Yeah, I agree. It's a cool setup. It's a good start for the Frost Armor cycle. Yep. Fracture should increase your melee lunge range. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. All right, Impetus. This is one that we kind of ended up encroaching on a little bit, intentionally so. Okay? Increasing lunge range with the fragment? Yeah, probably not. Remove the cooldown. Giving players more melee whiffs, right? Yeah, melee lunge is dangerous. And how I said about a lot still, I think that the one stack of Frost Armor should be baked in with the melee. Frost Armor should make Stasis weapons be better. Like maybe better handling or damage. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Like while you have Frost Armor, it basically kind of a similar thing to what's going on with Hedrons, right? But like a Frost Armor thing. Here's an idea. Here's an idea. This might be something better for conduction, but make it to where picking up a Stasis Shard gives you grenade energy as well. Like Fractures is a little risky considering you have to get close. You should combine the fragment with one that makes you punches slow while you have Frost Armor. Well, you're probably going to stack it that way anyhow. Impetus could have a load of ammo return melee energy only like 1%. There's lots of space for weapon perks that improve the weapon whilst you have Frost Armor. Yeah, that could be, I think, a thing for this one, for Impetus specifically. What if this was, while you have Frost Armor, your weapon slowly reloads over time, depending on how many Frost Armor stacks you have. So at max stacks, it would be similar to having 3 holster mods. So it allows you to kind of like keep firing or whatever. Maybe, yeah, maybe something like game reload per stack, because that's not something that the other ones do. That's kind of a cool idea. This is stability, aim assist, airborne effectiveness, and then their character stats. But reload speed might not be bad either. Having Stasis give you damage resistance to freezing. No. Next one, so Stasis melee hits gives Stasis weapons a chill clip shot. Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're making this the chill clip thing? That is kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting. Yeah, so that gives the chill clip, and then because we agreed that bonds would just be better just with a faster cooldown. But a melee giving chill clip would be kind of cool. Like your next shot has chill clip. A reload and 1 chill clip. I don't think it needs the reload. If we already are doing this with Hedrons, making the freezes be a part of that, Impetus might be a little much. Game improved melee ability recharge for a brief time whilst you're dealing weapon damage after hitting a target with a melee ability. Maybe like, maybe something simple like while you have Frost Armor, your melee recharges faster. That's, kind of like how ability kills give Strand Unraveling rounds. Yeah, true. Maybe chill clip weapons deal more damage to enemies. You got Frost Armor or Frozen, or a Dust Cold Grenade. Most powerful super in the game with damage PvE is situational. I like the idea of like landing a melee or a melee kill on a target gives you a brief period of chill clip basically. Yeah, I think I kind of like that idea. That also would keep Impetus as like a general play style. It would just make it towards more damage forward. Yeah. When the Frost Armor breaks, you reload automatically. Maybe. Yeah. I know what you're trying to do, Odd. I know you're trying to continue to pull the reload thing. But I think that Hedrons does that. Like, with our update to Hedrons, I feel like this is sufficient. So, I like the idea of Impetus being specifically the chill clip thing. Because that keeps this as a general style. Alright. Chill. Clip. on melee kill. Cool. Maybe make kinetic weapons deal a small bit of stasis damage while you have frost armor. It's hard because, like, you start to get into some weird territories with that, right? Alright, conduction. Conduction. We talked about the idea of the ore pickup thing, but if we're going to do that off of impetus, which I feel like is probably a little bit better, I feel like conduction could probably modify how stasis shards operate to give you more stuff. So we mentioned, let me make sure I've got this here. Let me tie this down here. One sec. Here. So we mentioned that shards, stasis shards, would probably give energy to everything and then be exclusive. Right? A small amount of energy to everything. How did we feel about that? I don't think we ever concluded that as a discussion. How do we feel about stasis shards giving energy to everything outside of just melees? Love conduction for my Frost Pulse Vesper of Radius build. Well, we're tying the conduction's behavior into stasis shards by default. Yeah, maybe more energy on shards pickups, but isn't that a hunger? Right? Do we swap Ionic Traces too? Yes, and we swap Ionic Traces. We swap Ionic Traces. Basically, we swap how Ionic Traces and Stasis Shards give energy, and then on Arc Warlock specifically, where it's kind of integral to the kit, make Electrostatic Mind, apply it to everything. That way it's basically untouched. Energy for the least charged ability, perhaps? For conduction or for stasis shards? I guess that wouldn't be a bad idea. If we make it just it gives energy to anything, the lowest charge included. I say make it grenades. Nope, that's Solar's thing. Hard no on that. That's very much a Solar thing. But like I said, you can get all ability energy with the stasis. You can build it up right. Just to make it easier for the freeing up the fragments. Making it pick up, grant energy for all of your abilities, and give DR might be a bit much. Stasis needs a bit much. Stasis is in a position where it needs to come in a little hot. No pun intended. Because it's currently not hardly touched at all. Feels like too big of a change. Personally, I feel like stasis shards could give energy to the lowest charge ability, like what old stasis mods did. Least charge is really good. I think I like that too. I think least charge is probably the best. Cool. Let it give ability energy and give 1 stack of frost armor if you don't have it active. For conduction specifically. Yeah, I feel like if conduction were the fragment that gave frost armor without needing the aspect, that would be pretty good. Because currently conduction, right now as we have it, with conduction being default behavior, is useless. Don't think I'd ever be another darkness subclass. Nope. I think we are done. The conduction stack with the aspect to give a huge tracking, so it also has 3% to grenade and class ability energy. Shall we roll on? What do we want to decide with conduction? Because conduction needs something. Slight damage resistance to solar. I think if it's the frost armor thing, that's probably the best place to take it. Yeah, I think that's the fragment should be the frost armor fragment. Writing this down. Okay, moving on. Rending operates perfectly fine as is. Better when the frozen targets don't take as much damage. But let me throw something else out here for you, chat. Rending. Increase the amount of damage dealt by a target's freeze. So, you know how we talked about how freezes deal damage over time? Let Rending do enough. So, keep it as is. Actually, you know what? You know what? Better idea. Toss Rending's thing altogether. Make it a default behavior. Toss Rending into default behavior. Now, change Rending to be when a target is frozen, the damage over time they take from being frozen is increased. When a target is done being frozen, they shatter. So this causes frozen targets to shatter automatically. So it's more damage to frozen targets, and it causes the shatter. I'm pretty confident in that. How do you feel about that? Rending is pointless right now. Yeah, make it default. Cool. Whisper of Rending should be built into every subclass. Yep. There'll be a soft counter to Solar. Solar should be a soft counter to Stasis. Okay. I think this should be another fragment. I like the buff to weapon damage. Well, if the buff to weapon damage was default behavior, I don't think you would care about this much anymore. Yeah. That's the change they made of Fellwinter's gauntlets. Yep. And look how many that gets. Look how much that gets used. Fellwinter's can be updated too. We're going to talk about Fellwinter's as well. On this topic, TDT, something I would want is the ability outside of Headstone and Glacier Nades, the ability to make crystals with a fragment. That's a good idea. I like the way you think. Maybe we can make one of these here. Hunger. Increase the melee energy gain. So this is just make shards do shards better. Does anybody use Whisper of Hunger out of curiosity? Ability spam on Stasis top-notch. Subclass sucks, though. Make it give burritos on shard pickup. Dude, I'm on board. I do. Okay. Anybody else use Whisper of Hunger? Anybody else in chat use Whisper of Hunger? I do not. Heart of Inmost Light. Right. Melee spam build. 20 strength. Minus 20 strength is absurd. I've seen some builds use it, but I don't use it due to the stat penalty. You're going to have this later on the channel? Yeah, we'll have this later on the channel. Lamau, no. Minus 20 strength, ew. 20 is too harsh. I used to use Hunger during the Witch Queen when it could be combined with Well Generation, right, for the refund thing. Or should increase the melee energy gain Frost Armor stacks you get from the one shard. I think Hunger should be the place that we create the Stasis Crystals. So, like, the idea of getting more ability spam is, like, cool and all. Right? But if we, like... Okay, let's say that it's, like, by default 10% right now. And Hunger, let's say, gives 20%, just for number's sake. Right? If we bumped it up to 15% by default, kind of split the difference, and then changed Hunger to do the crystal thing... Maybe that'd be a little bit better. How would you feel about that? So, what if Whisper of Hunger changed to, instead of it having the increased melee energy gained on picking up shards, make half of that effect default behavior, and then make it to where Whisper of Hunger defeating, let's say, frozen targets or shattering of frozen targets spawns a Stasis Crystal at their location. Or at your location, maybe. Negative 20 strength does actually do so much loss and cooldown. Refunds so much energy for picking up the shards. That fragment equipped, you can use it all. It's just not necessary right now. Missed a lot? Yeah, you did. Fragment is cool, but it forces you into a playstyle that the game that seems to discourage, especially for Hunters and Warlocks. True. Creates a Stasis Crystal on powered melee kills. Or, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What if Whisper of Hunger was the spot where the Diamond Lances are created? Because we haven't introduced Diamond Lances into here at all. So maybe something like defeating frozen targets or defeating Like, because Diamond Lance right now, let me refresh myself because I Diamond Lance so little. Shatter defeats weapons with stasis abilities or weapons to create stasis lance. Right. Right. So what if this was while you have frost armor? Or maybe something like, wait. What if, once you reach 5 stacks of frost armor, at 5 stacks of frost armor, create a Diamond Lance at your location. Diamond Lance should stay on Titan. We've already had this discussion. I'm going to ignore you, but not because I disagree with you, but because we've had this discussion. Frozen targets or multi-kills with the stasis damage. Make it a Diamond Lance. Use it with the crystal spamming. Cut the penalty to -10 and I'll agree. I think the penalty is probably fine because it's kind of like a unique playstyle that you're introducing, right? For the cost of something like this. I'd imagine there's a fragment of frozen targets taking increased collision damage. They make the classes do different debuffs with the lances. Yes, that's what we discussed. Defeating frozen targets creates a freezing burst that freezes nearby enemies. For the Diamond Lance, -20 is fair, yeah. I think Diamond Lances should naturally spawn like Tangles. I disagree with that. Because Diamond Lances, I think, are a lot stronger than Tangles. Because Diamond Lances open up freezes and slows and shatters, whereas Tangles are just Tangles. And it takes an aspect to modify them further. At 5 stacks of Frost Armor could give you 30% damage resist, but slower movement and more damage resist. Oh, talking about that as an idea. I like the idea of the Diamond Lance thing. So how do we want to spawn it? I kind of like the idea of like when you get 5, it gives you the Diamond Lance. But I also like the idea of shattering a frozen target creates the Diamond Lance. Or maybe shattering a stasis crystal gives you a Diamond Lance. Again, let me refresh myself here. Maybe destroying a crystal gives you the Diamond Lance. How are we feeling? Give on 5 stasis kills, 3 precision, or 1 frozen kill. So basically after a certain amount of time. If you keep your stacks at 5, do you keep generating lances or do you only get the 1? You only get the 1 and it goes on cooldown. Shadow with frost armor. Yeah, maybe having both. Yeah. Stasis crystals create a lance. It makes sense. Yeah, I feel like that's probably the way. Yeah, each stack of frost armor lessens the cooldown of the Diamond Lance. That could be cool. That'd be good for a different fragment elsewhere. While watching Spicy Clips, longtime viewer just wanted to ask regarding Stasis. Could Stasis, if buffed right, be a counter to Prismatic Hunter spam? If it nullified certain effects. Theoretically, yeah. Hey, thanks for the sub. Appreciate that. Make it like Prismatic on melee kills. It creates a lance and keeps the cooldown it already has. So talking about melee kills specifically, that does kind of start to put Stasis into a more melee-only class, which I feel like we need to pull away from. I like the Stasis Crystal idea. Like, after you shatter a certain amount of... After shattering Stasis Crystals, you'll occasionally generate a Diamond Lance. I think that's probably the best. Give it a 10-second cooldown. Yeah, give it a cooldown. Destroying crystals gives the Diamond Lance. And default, just to refresh, default Diamond Lance behavior is a slow, not a freeze. It's only on Titan that it ends up getting more. If you have Durance, let's say... If you have Durance, it could maybe freeze. There's my Durance. There's my Durance. Make it so eating different grenades makes Diamond Lances do different things. So we going with shattering crystals or defeating frozen targets. I feel like because this is frozen targets already, I think it needs to be crystals. Because that would also help the Titans too. Giving a way for them to get the crystals or the Diamond Lance up from other sources. Shattering stasis crystals or rapidly shattering enemies creates a Diamond Lance. Yeah, and again, that's kind of similar to what's going on here, right? So it needs to be different than what Diamond Lance operates by default. Because I feel like the trigger for Diamond Lance is good. It's this the effect that it does needs to be boosted now that we're adding it more. Wants Durance to increase your slow stacks applied by all sources. Doesn't it already? I mean, it kind of does, just in a roundabout way. It could also be one of those things where it's like maybe like a hidden interaction thing, you know? Like if it was easier to create barriers and cause disruptions. Yeah, true. Okay, so I think the Stasis Crystal is probably the best place to go about it. Yeah, I think that's probably the best place to go about it. Because that also makes a headstone feel cooler, too. Hunger. Crystals. Make Diamond Lances. Cool. We can pick up Diamond Lance and consume it as stacks of Frost Armor. That's kind of a cool idea, too. But we need ways to get Diamond Lances right now, so we're focusing a little bit on that. Rhyme, your Frost Armor has increased duration and maximum stack count. I feel like this could also combine here with chains. So it could say max stack, duration, stack count, and while you have Frost Armor, you can create Stasis Shards. So it combines the two together. Just tuning in, have you already discussed the Tectonic Harvest cooldown being too restrictive on Titan? We're getting there. We're talking about fragments right now to start. Apart from Glacier Nades, how many ways can you make crystals? Not very often. No, not very many ways. Leave Rhyme as it is. Other reworks will make it better. I agree. What if eating the Stasis Grenade spawned one or more lances using a particular fragment or aspect? It would be bad for the Stasis Warlock. It'd be a little weird. Reversal while you have Frost Armor. Melee damage slows your target. I haven't used this much. Is this any good? I feel like this is good. I feel like this is quite good. And also will be better once the other stuff gets better too, right? Headstone, Howl the Storm, Hoarfrost, Renewal, Salvation's Grip, Verglas. Yep. Good with Glaives. Yep, that makes sense. Haven't touched the OG Stasis since expansion. Reversal's kind of mid. Well, hopefully with things getting better, this is one of those things that would get better too. Just works on uncharged melee, I think. Just works on uncharged melee? Oh. Reversal is bad because it's bad stasis melees, but it's fine in a vacuum. That makes sense. But shortly after using your class ability, your stasis and kinetic weapons precision kills make a Diamond Lance. Tie it into that, maybe. Talking about for reversal. Wish Bungie could just talk to us about stuff like this. Yeah, dude, I would love to sit down with a dev and just be like, all right, let's fix this shit. At least I want to talk about fixing the shit and why it wouldn't work. At least tell me why it wouldn't work. Press streams, yeah. Okay. I feel like leaving reversal as is and arguably chill too. Stasis weapon final blows have a chance to create a stasis shard. I feel like this should be a stasis crystal instead of a shard. Whisper of reversal only applies 10 slow stacks, so we can't even make it freeze. Because it needs 90 slows. So it needs to at least deal 40 slows to work with that kit. Right. Yeah. Bump this up, basically. Apart from the Warlock and other charged melee slows, how about letting reversal freeze on other melees? How so? Hitting a friendly player with the Titan Diamond Lance grants them max stacks of Frost Armor. Lets you hit that player. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, make this another Diamond Lance thing. That's kind of a cool idea. Throwing a Stasis Crystal or throwing a Diamond Lance at a target applies. Well, we could do it like that. Whoa. What do we did it like that? What do we did it like that? Whisper of Reversal. Diamond Lances apply more slow stacks. So by default, it would like it'd actually be capable of freezing with a little bit of extra effort. And then make it to where when you splash a friendly target, it gives them frost armor. Or, here's an idea. While you have frost armor, melee attacks on you cause slow. I think that might be best, because that keeps it in similar in flavor, but gives it much better functionality. I think I like that the best. Yeah, the Thorns effect. Yep, exactly. I think it's funny to me to think about the Whisper of Reversal as stunning overloads to melee you. Yeah, true. Reversal could work like the Thorns effect if you have the Frost Armor being damaged by a melee attack. Consume some stacks Frost Armor and releases a burst of slows. Yep, exactly. Okay, so we agree. Let's make this the Thorns effect. Great minds. Let's do that. I had to kill Overload Minotaurs. I love it. Yep. It'd be interesting with overloads. Yep, good. Fuck them. We have Frost Armor. Melee final blows generate a Diamond Lance. Well, we're kind of doing that with Hunger, right? So yeah, I like the idea with Reversal. This pin is ass. Reversal. Frost Armor cause slows to melee targets. Cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Alright. And now, Whisper of Chill. Stasis weapons have a chance to create a Stasis shard. If we were being more conservative here, this would be a better place to do this, the Diamond Lance thing. Stasis weapons have a chance to create a Diamond Lance. Right? This would probably be the better place to do it. But I feel like this should just be, like, keeping Hunger as it is. Or sorry, not keeping Hunger as it is. Keeping Hunger to where we discussed it to be. The crystals, the Stasis crystals creating the Diamond Lance. And then making Whisper of Chill create Stasis crystals out instead of Stasis shards would probably be better. That's what Lancecap does. That's true. That's true. Reversal punch, you get slowed, right? Exactly. Yeah, I think Whisper of Chill should instead of it being the Stasis weapons have a chance to create a Stasis shard, which is fine. I think it would be better if this was a Stasis crystal. It's just basically a level up because you could accomplish the same thing. Stasis weapons generate a shards on kill, not a chance. Well, unless it's doing something that it's not saying. It says Stasis weapon final blows have a chance to create a Stasis shard. So, like, unless it's just wrong. Honestly, Stasis was the best when there was an artifact mod that treated shards like orbs. Yep. Whisper of Chill should have improved chances of multi-kills and precision kills. There's some like punches. Yeah, crystals would be better. Okay, finally somebody's on point here. Somebody's on subject. Everyone went, like, several different directions. Do we prefer crystals over the shards? Because I feel like that's just a better version of this. And actually would make it worth a damn. What the fuck? Hold on 1 second, everybody. Just saw something interesting outside my window. Alright, we're back. Crystals for sure. Misam, you're like my dad, except you're still here. What a comment. Alright, so we're good at the crystals. Crystals better than shards. Cool. Alright, chill. Okay. I think that's the boring stuff out the way. Let me go over the changes. Everything we've discussed. Hedrons. Keep as it is. Freezing a target reloads weapons. Fissures. Make this the default behavior. And update Fissures to create that X pattern from like a season ago. Chains was the next one that we massively updated. Everything else here is pretty much unchanged. Chains. when you're standing near a stasis crystal, you get 1 stack of frost armor, and it just keeps it. It doesn't stack further. It just is like a flat 1 stack of frost armor. Cool? Alright, moving on. The same impetus. When you get a melee kill with a stasis charged melee kill, you get 6 seconds of chill clip on whatever weapon you're using, if it's a stasis weapon. Okay? Conduction is now default behavior. And then from there, why did I just put the word frost armor? I just wrote the word frost armor. That's not very helpful. Chat, what did I put for my notes? Remind me. My notes are terrible. Oh, I think I know what we meant. Frost armor being the thing that gives from crystals. Yeah, okay. I remember. Yeah. Okay. Shards give frost armor. Someone rewind the stream. I got it. Shards give frost armor. This is a way to get the thing that we're doing on the aspects, but you know, so we don't actually have to do an aspect. I forgot. Yeah, we got it. We're good. Hunger. This is where if you destroy stasis crystals, you make a diamond lance. Okay, we agreed that rhyme should be default behavior. Or not default behavior, sorry. I'm thinking of rending. Rending. There we go. Yeah, rending. Rending should be this current aspect or this current fragment use should be default behavior. And then what this will do is it'll cause the damage over time on frozen targets and will actually, after the end of their freezing time, actually cause them to shatter, making it a lot easier for you. Hunger, we talked about the diamond lance thing. Rhyme stays the same. Reversal. While you have frost armor, melee targets that melee you gain slow. Chill. This is the one that creates crystals instead of shards. Cool. Let's go on to the aspects themselves. Everything here I think is actually fine. All the abilities and such are generally fine on all the classes too. I think they all operate pretty well. Let's talk about each of these here. So we've mentioned that shards in general are now going to be a exclusive thing, and they're going to be something that, because they're exclusive, we can reduce the cooldown on them. That way you can keep them up more often. Because Tectonic Harvest now has part of its functionality removed, we need to update it. Right? Because now, while Tectonic Harvest is equipped, picking up Stasis Shards against stacks of Frost Armor is kind of unnecessary. What we could do is make it to where, while Tectonic Harvest is equipped, Frost Armor grants more damage resistance. We could potentially keep Frost Armor stacks as it is by default, and then make it to where Tectonic Harvest makes the Frost Armor even more powerful. Rending will not work in PvP, right? Sure it would. Why wouldn't it? That'd be nice on Titan. Thought of a build with ACT zeros and reversal, fear my power, right? Just Warlock super like Nova Bomb. Okay, we'll talk about some super ideas in a bit. Tectonic Harvest should make it easier to generate stasis shards. It does. We're keeping that. But I think more damage resistance from Frost Armor by default baked into Tectonic Harvest would be good. Do we agree? We good at that? I need a second piece of... Oh! Don't drop that. I almost dropped the controller. With my gamer reflexes, I was able to not drop my controller. Okay. Okay. More damage resistance sounds good. I agree. Diamond Lance. Update Diamond Lance to create, because now other classes create Diamond Lance. Make it to where Diamond Lance, when it fires down on the target, creates stasis crystals. I know that Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap does that, but more so. More crystals. Think of it like in a little, like a peace symbol pattern. With 5x, you get 35% on Stasis Titan. With 8, you get 56%. Right. Yeah, just better overall. Add Clamber to Stasis Crystals, Titan aspect. Yeah. You know, remove that stupid shard cooldown to make Tectonic Hearts. Yeah, we're removing the cooldown. Okay, do we like the little crystal idea? Cool. Let's move on. Diamond Lance. We need to change the name of this too. We'll talk about that another time. Somebody can suggest an idea. Crystals on landing. Lance's Fury. We could do a Lance Riddick reference in here. That would be kind of interesting. Because there are, like, name item. Like Dregner's Lash. Right? You call it Riddick's Lance. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be a cool little commemoration. Alright. Cryoclasm. Yeah, Riddick's Resolve. There you go. Buffs the Diamond Lance. There you go. That's cool. Cryoclasm. Slide distance and stuff is cool. Right? That's fine. It's whatever. But this doesn't do enough. This could make it to where crystals shatter by themselves. So similarly how frozen targets work. Any stasis crystals you create automatically shatter. What do you think about that? Keep what it already does, but add the automatic shatter. That would be too OP, though. Hard to disagree. Auto-shattering would be a nerf. Really? You think so? After a period of time. It wouldn't shatter right away. So think about it like this. Maybe I'm not explaining myself. Because there's no way this is a nerf. Think about it like this. Normally when a stasis crystal goes away, it just goes away. Right? But with Cryoclasm equipped, when it's about to disappear, instead, it shatters. Right? So if a crystal were to dissipate normally, it would explode with the Cryoclasm equipped. Cryoclasm should be an input like Icarus Dash, but sliding. That's a great idea. I really like that. Gavin, I'm going to write that down. Input idea is a great idea. Landmines, yes. Yes, stasis crystals are fantastic for many things, not just damage. Giving up control over when they shatter is a tremendous nerf to their behavior. Again, I think that with the more information added, because there's no way making a crystal explode when it would have just normally gone away isn't a buff. There's no way. And even still, don't run Cryoclasm then, right? So I'm going to roll with that. The Cryoclasm buff, the shattering, stasis crystals, like the one artifact mod. We're doing that for Fishers. Moving on. Howl of the Storm is fine as is. As an ability, it's fine. I think it just needs to deal more damage, frankly. I always got good ideas. That is my 5th good idea. Props to me. You're welcome. My territory is Behemoth. Yeah, Howl of the Storm is fine. Yeah, it's like Consecration, but, icy. Expand on the crystals created. Yeah, I just think just more damage. And especially with shattering and crystals being better overall, it'd be good. All right, so that's this. For a super, somebody mentioned a Diamond Lance as a super, and I think that's a great idea. Just a Javelin. There's a Javelin that sticks to a target, creates a shite ton of crystals near wherever it landed, and shatters them. Cool? Cool. Moving on. Let's go over to Hunter. All right. I think Withering Blade, as it stands, is probably fine. Honestly, if 2 Withering Blades caused a freeze, I think that would be probably fine. So a little bit of a buff would not really cause that much of a problem. Maybe it has less slowing effect the longer it's out. So if you're like directly on top of somebody and you quickly Withering Blade them, it'd be similar to hitting somebody with a Warlock melee. Couldn't run custom and GMs for the movement. I personally would just have them given up the ability to improve the Crystal Shatters to send out those Ice Shards from the Seasonal's artifact. Yeah, Withering Blade's fine. I think it's probably fine. Maybe more damage, but honestly, overall, pretty fine. All right, let's move on here. Touch of Winter. I dislike that this is on Hunter because I feel like this is a Warlock thing. Grenades are kind of a Warlock thing, but, you know, I get it. It's whatever. 2 Withering Blades already cause a freeze. Not in PvP. I'm talking about for PvP. All right, anyway, Touch of Winter, fine. Cool, works as is. You know, no need to update. Grim Harvest, this needs to be updated because obviously making the bigger Stasis Shard is cool, right? That can stay as a part of the thing, but the Frost Armor needs to be updated. So something needs to change here. Something needs to change here. What about kinetic weapons deal bonus damage to slowed targets? Like Touch of Winter's Glacier Grenade, easier to climb on top of. Giving chat a second to catch up to the suggestion. Waiting. Waiting. Why just kinetic? Because kinetic need, well, kinetic and stasis, I suppose. Stasis shards grant stasis weapon bonus damage. Not a bad idea either. Maybe frost armor gives you increased jump height or something, just going in with the design of hunters being fast and mobile. That's kind of a cool idea too. I don't know why you never use hunter. There you go. Does extra frost armor give a damage buff? I feel like that's encroaching a little too much on Titan's territory. Like, you don't want hunters to be the best frost armor class, right? You want it to be like an option for them. They Grim Harvest have a completely new functionality. When you get enough shards, you can do an attack with the hunter comma as a super, and the freeze is a big deal, shattering explosion. I think it's a little too much. Giving sustained damage to slowed or frozen targets, reloads your weapons from reserve. That's not actually. That's also not a bad idea. Like, slowed targets just generally take more damage. Like, slowing targets. Targets take more damage from slows. Flinch resist on pickup. Frost armor already kind of does that. What if it makes shards give out a small slow AoE? The more they're grouped up together, the stronger it gets. I feel like hunters need to play around the idea of a debuff. And I feel like Grim Harvest is a great way to do that. Like, dealing damage to, like, you deal increased damage to slowed targets. Basically, it's this aspect that we have, or the fragment that we have, where you deal bonus damage to frozen targets. But this goes even a step further. Yeah, some interaction with slow would be good. Yeah, none of the, it's interesting that you bring that up, Arrow. None of the other fragments play around slow at all. It's really interesting. That's actually a really good point. Like, the only one that does is Winter Shroud, right? But it doesn't interact with it. It doesn't interact with it. It just grants it, which is a little different. Yeah, I think I like the idea of Grim Harvest. You and allies deal bonus damage to targets that are slowed. Basically like a weakening effect. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to take it, because that's also very in flavor for hunters, because their whole like thing is debuffing, and right. Slow targets deal less damage to you. Isn't slow a debuff, not counting that? I mean, we are, but it's just not enough, right? Make it more so. And what I'm saying, when I'm talking about when I'm saying like the classes don't really interact with it, I mean like this grants it, that's it. You know, this gives you the frost armor or whatever return thing on it, but that's more of a frost armor thing than it is a slow thing. Slow debuff itself is just a build up for freeze eventually. Slow debuff needs a little more, agreed. Damage to stasis weapon equips instead of granting frost armor. Well, it could also grant the frost armor too. We could make it that a thing. But I also agree, like, maybe tossing the frost armor altogether is probably not a bad idea. Yeah, I probably agree with that. Yeah. All right, let's do that. So keep the stasis shard thing. Grim. Keep stasis shard. Add bonus damage from weapons. Cool. Moving on. Revenant being the slow specialist was never really something Bungie directly pushed. I hard disagree. The more that Hunter's Kit happens to have 2 stage setups for freezing, since I hard disagree. I have like irrefutable proof, Evan, irrefutable proof that Hunters are supposed to be the slow class. Are you ready? Boom. That's a Hunter on that picture right there. They are absolutely supposed to be the slow class. Like, they could have chosen anything for this. They chose specifically Hunter. Warlocks are here. I would agree that they're around freezing. Titans are here. I would agree that they're around shatter. And crystals in general, right? Like, they could have chosen anything. More so than that, Hunters have a slowing melee. Warlocks have a freezing melee. Titans have a kind of whatever melee. The shattering melee is supposed to be. Checkmate, atheist. That's right. Yeah, definitely push them for slowing. Yeah. The other classes don't play around slowing at all. Hunter does, just not very well. Well, I guess not at all. I guess the whatchamacallit, the turret does, right? But again, that's kind of an exception, not really the rule. Anyway, moving right along. All right, Winter Shroud, totally fine. Perfectly fine as is. Don't touch it, don't need to. Shadow Dive is great. Very unique ability. Don't touch it, don't need to. The only thing I would say here for Shadow Dive, there's only one thing I would say for Shadow Dive. Okay? Hear me out on this. Hear me out on this. All right, so we've adjusted this. This seems fine. Shadow Dive. Hear me out. While you have Frost Armor, Shadow Diving slows targets and consumes your Frost Armor stacks. So what you could do, you could wombo combo people. What you could do is you could throw the Dusk Field, get the Withering Blade on them, and if assuming you have Frost Armor, you could Shadow Dive down and get the freeze off. It's expensive. It's expensive, and it requires setup, but it could work. The reason why I don't think this would be a problem for PvP, and in PvE too, the reason why I don't think this would be a problem for PvP is because you would have to get Frost Armor from somewhere first. Typically, that requires you to have already killed a target. So it's sort of like a kill clip thing. And then actually getting a slow is not that big of a deal. Like, it's annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. It's much more annoying from ranged stuff, right? Because if you're outside of cover, you're stuck outside of cover. Where if you're, basically on top of the target, you're already within, you probably have line of sight of that target. You're probably going to be able to counterattack, right? It's not a freeze by default. So you're probably going to be able to shoot back without too much of a trouble. Right? Shadow Dive requiring setup. Well, Shadow Dive would still work as normal. It would still work as normal, but like if you're able to get Frost Armor on, then you Shadow Dive down, it would cause that slow. And it would cause more slow depending on how many Frost Armor stacks you have. So it could stack up to 8, right? So if you had 8 stacks of Frost Armor and you Shadow Dive down, it'd be 80 stacks of slow. And then consume all your Frost Armor stacks. Maybe a little bit longer of a radius while having Frost Armor? Maybe. Ninja Shroud to make diamond lances for hunters to create field event. Oh, that's a good idea too. Astray, that's a really solid point. Yep. That's not a bad idea. We can work back to that. Seems fine to me. Gives it a run to extend outside of movement. Yeah. Could consume your frost armor to create a shatter explosion as though you're a crystal. That's interesting, but I feel like that can get very dangerous very quickly. Like, I'm intentionally avoiding raw damage. Right? I'm intentionally avoiding something that is just a direct damage increase, because Shadow Dive can be a problem. Which reduces its cooldown. Cooldown is painful after missing a Shatter Skate. That's fine, though. It's a subtle cooldown, and it's not like it costs anything, you know? Grilling and watching me some? Hell yeah. Ice Flare bolts on Warlock make diamond lances to send out little... Okay, okay. I like how you're thinking. I like how you're thinking. Okay. I like that Shadow Dive idea, and I haven't heard anybody be, like, offended at it yet. Nobody's like, how dare you, sir, recommend Shadow Dive to get stronger. Okay, Shadow Dive, Shadow Dive. We updated Shadow Dive. With Frost Armor. Rat. Slow. Cool. Kills with Shadow Dive creates Stasis Lances. That starts to encroach on Titan's territory, 100%. But the Touch of Winter creating the Diamond Lances makes a lot more sense, I think. A lot more sense. So Cold Snap Grenades being the thing that does it could be kind of interesting. The thing what we want to avoid is we don't want this to be... We don't want this to destroy any play styles. I also just maybe think that just all of the only aspect that should be capable of doing the Diamond Lance thing should probably be Titans. I like the idea, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking that Titans specifically have a Diamond Lance aspect. Every other class has to play around it with fragments. Just no Shadow Dive 1.0, yeah. Shadow Dive slows on land. Yes, exactly. That's, in case you missed it, what I was suggesting here for Shadow Dive is that while you have Frost Armor, Shadow Diving slows when it lands and consumes your Frost Armor stacks. We were talking about buffing Shadow Dive. Okay, are we cool with everything here? I'm going to read back everything that we have so far. So Titans, Tectonic Harvest, keep it as is, but you get more damage resistance from having Frost Armor. The Diamond Lance Crystal change, we need to change how its name is working, right? And Diamond Lance will create little stasis crystals whenever they land. Cryoclasm crystals auto shatter instead of dissipating. Everything else keeps as is, and I also like the idea of the slide being an input rather than being something that is just by default. Just sliding gives you that. That way you can choose when you want to slide. Cool. Moving on to Hunter. First talking about Grim Harvest. Keep the shard thing, the shard generation, but change it to where when the target is slowed, you can deal bonus damage to them with stasis and kinetic weapons. Cool? And the only other thing that we updated here was Shadow Dive. While you have Frost Armor, Shadow Diving slows nearby targets and consumes Frost Armor stacks. Alright, let's move on to Warlock. Does 8 stacks of Frost Armor trigger a freeze? No, it does 80 stacks of slow. I guess it would be enough to freeze in PvE. 5 stacks would be enough to freeze in PvE. But in PvP, it would be 10 times whatever, 10x whatever the current Frost Armor stacks is, which means it's impossible to get a freeze off. All right. Shadebinder. A lot of these overall are pretty good. I feel like the big thing that Warlock suffers on is that their super's kind of ass. All right for crowd control or whatever, right? But for damage, it's just kind of okay. All right, please fix the bugs introduced with Cryoclasm since the rework. Yeah, true. All right, Ice Flare Bolts. I feel like this is a perfectly fine thing. I don't think this needs to be touched at all. Glacial Harvest needs to be updated, though. Freezing targets creating stasis shards is cool. Happy with this from the frozen targets, but we need something else that it does here. Ice Flow Bolts are perfect. I agree. We'll actually gain something that makes slowed and frozen targets take damage over time. That's actually something I wanted to bring up. Thank you for reminding me. Glacial Harvest. Frozen targets thaw with slows. So basically, whenever you freeze a target, when they thaw out, they still have slows on them. What do you guys feel about that? That way, if you get a freeze off on a target, you get the... Assuming you don't shatter them, they just, like, unfreeze normally. You could continue to do crowd control stuff to them. What are y'all thinking? I think my chat's a little behind here. Oh, this is unrelated, but I have Google slide that files concept for water subclass. You have a water subclass in the Google slide, huh? That's interesting. Sounds okay. Frozen enemies slow surrounding enemies. Not a bad idea. I feel like it's kind of Ice Flare Bolts thing, though. Like something like Permafrost, you can shatter the enemy multiple times before the enemy unfreezes. That might be a little much. Make Stasis Shards on Glacier grant melee and grenade energy. That's not a bad idea. I do like that, too. I like that, too. Yeah, make it to where that they can generate grenade energy as well. Sounds good to synergize with turrets. Yeah, that's the thing that this would work well with, because what you could do with Glacial Harvest, if you ran Glacial Harvest and the Bleak Watcher, freezing a target with the Bleak Watcher, when they got unfrozen, they would get frozen again faster. Right? They would you could basically perma-stun them. You could just lock them in place with the Bleak Watcher. It'll mostly be a PvP buff. In PvE, it's incredibly rare for enemies to thaw naturally for a Warlock. True. But if you think about this for a boss... Yeah, okay, I can see that. Yeah, exactly. Like for a boss or something, you can kind of just keep doing your thing to them, right? Just keep them frozen over and over and over and over and over again. There was another one that I saw there previously. Yeah, the freezing a target slows nearby targets is not a terrible idea either. But like I said, I feel like that's the Ice Flare thing. So, yeah. Anyway, rolling on. Frost Pulse, cool. It's annoying as fucking PvP, but you know what? That's fine. That's how it be. I think this should have a longer cooldown by default, personally. Like, bring the Rift cooldown up to 2 minutes. But fine as is. And with freezes getting better, it'd be better too. Everything else is fine. The big thing here is the super. Somebody suggested, like, a version of Nova Bomb. I like the idea of basically firing big Winter Bite ball. Basically a ball of energy that slows, freezes, and then eventually shatters targets in its path. It moves slowly like a Slova Bomb. And just kind of travels in a straight line. But yeah, most of these I really don't have problems with. I feel like the aspects kind of carry this class. But the Glacial Harvest update would be good. Frost Pulse could pulse again if you get multi-kills in the Rift. That's not a bad idea. Make it to where it actually has a little bit more staying power. Or maybe to make it where getting kills while standing in your Rift create a slowing vortex around you. Eat the stasis crystals. Crunch. Alright. Bad for your teeth. Don't do that. Make the heavy attack apply 60 slows to anything not currently frozen. Right. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, only combatants. Or something within line of sight, maybe. Aspect that works similarly to the Weave Walk. You can consume your melee over time, and it acts like a sort of freezing flamethrower that works like Aggro Scepter. That'd be kind of cool. I feel like that's just more of just a good melee in general. Where, as a melee option, it's like a hold to melee thing. Where it slows the target. Half of it would cause a freeze. Binding stasis would be bad for more than just your teeth, yes.
I eat the stasis crystals. Croomch.
What? Brian. Oh, Brian really gave it his best right there. Kroomsh. Yeah. Brian did not have a good time reading that one. Anyway, yeah, I think that'd be better as a melee option and then update for the supers. Throw the crystal in the sky and then make it rain crystals that would either randomly fall on enemies or you could focus it on a specific target. I feel like that's more of like a good update to a arc super. Borderlands 4 reveal trailer. Has that been a thing? Did we get a Borderlands 4 reveal trailer? Should go check that out. So we're going to be launching stasis mines all over the field. That's kind of a cool idea too. Little stasis runes. That'd be kind of cool. Little defensive thing. We did. All right, I'll have to watch it later. It's Sunday's stream. We think Ryan is on strike and saying funny words was his way of being on strike. Right. Okay. Yeah, but I think just generally, like, interacting with this would be the best way to adjust these. The rest of these are all relatively fine. I like the idea. Let's update Frost Pulse that while standing in a rift, killing targets with stasis weapons creates a slowing field around you. So, Frost Pulse. This wouldn't affect PvP at all. Like, you would probably never notice this in PvP. Stasis. Weapon. Kills. Burst. Slows. And then for the other one, the Glacial Harvest. The Glacial Harvest thing being that shattered targets, or targets that shatter, probably the better way to update it, to adjust the thing. Having still slows on them is probably pretty cool. Glacial. Shatters. Cool. Cool. All right, let's go talk about some exotics, shall we? Let me see here. Exotics. Collections. Exotics. Let's start with the kinetic slot stuffs. Let's see. Stasis. Does it really not show? Oh, that's interesting. It technically doesn't show up as a stasis weapon. Right. Cryosthesia, perfectly fine. I feel like this is a really slept-on weapon. It'll be better when freezes and shadows get better. Agriceptor, again, perfectly fine. We'll get better
Warlock 1 in gun super that spawn is bee watchers.
Oh, Bleak Watchers? That spawns Bleak Watchers? Yeah, that'd be cool. Or just make like this big ball of stasis energy. Right? That does the Bleak Watcher thing. Virgo's Curve, again, I don't think this needs to be updated. Wicked Implement has grown on me a bit, and a lot of people say that they use it, so it's probably fine. I'm wondering if there's any weapons here that probably deserve to be stasis. Like, updated as a stasis weapon. You know? I don't think so. All of them kind of make sense as kinetics. You know? No time should be stasis. There's a problem with that, though. Like, I understand where you're coming from with that. Where is it? Where's no time? I understand where you're coming from with that, but there's a small problem with this, where precision shots and shots on combatants slowed or frozen by stasis will return to the magazine. It could create weird instances where if you have this as a stasis weapon, it perpetually has the turret up constantly, no matter what, nonstop, which could be a problem. No time to explain should be stasis. Yeah, it's probably fine. As updated as a stasis weapon. Also, I don't know why it just show up here. Maybe the catalyst could do that. Yeah. Alright. I'll yield on that. Let's see. Nothing else here really stands out as like this should be a stasis weapon sort of thing. I need to go get Necrochasm. I could go get Necrochasm. I'm just too lazy. Yeah, everything else kind of makes sense. I have Euphony before I have Necrochasm, bruh. Power weapons. Yeah, I still don't have Acreus. A lot of the stasis weapons in general have gotten a lot better. Salvation's Grip is a lot better now. I just think there just needs to be more. This is just one of those cases where we need more. Again, Winter Bite I could go get. I just need to go get it. Yeah, I think it's just a situation where there just needs to be more of them. Right? Because there's just not a lot. There's very few. If there was more of them, it would be better. Let's see. Stasis-specific subclass things. Cadmus Ridge is probably fine as is. Nah, that rhymed. Yeah, it's fine as is. I don't think this needs anything here. Which is why it's really good given the right setup. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Rest of these are all pretty fine. Icefall Mantles need to give you full stacks of Frost Armor. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why they don't. They could cut all this crap out and just say that it gives you an overshield, max stacks of Stasis Frost Armor, and then Stasis weapons deal more damage while you have Frost Armor. That's it. And it would be fine. Suddenly it would be a very tanky thing. Remove the sprint penalty? Nah. It's very flavorful. Very flavorful for Icefall Mantles. It just needs to be doing what it's doing, but better. Warlock should get a Bleak Watcher buffing exotic. They do. It's called the Gauntlets. Osmios. Cool? Cool. Let's move on. Point of contact, power gals, wishfuls, blah, 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 blah. A lot of these are subclass neutral. Hoarfrost. While you have a stasis super equipped, your barricade knows a stasis wall, so those nearby targets when created, standing behind the wall. The ability to class weapon, reload speed, stability, and range. Right. This is, again, a situation where this will be better when they're the stasis crystals by themselves are better. This is a fine exotic. It works totally fine as is. Yeah, I don't think this needs updating at all. Alright, moving on. Hazardous, blah, 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 blah. Phoenix Cradle, Path of Burning Steps. Cool. Atheism, Stoicism. Okay, moving on to Hunter. I think everything is fine there. By the way, y'all, if you want Whisper of Impetus, this is Whisper of Impetus as an exotic. I think Mask of Backer should work with Arc. It's not really like a Stasis specific thing. I just think it should work with Arc. I don't know why it doesn't. Feels like the perfect thing to add. All seriousness is weird. Icefalls don't give any sort of frost armor. Yep, agreed. There's like 2 Stasis exotics per class. Agreed. It works with Prismatic. I mean, true, but like, why not Arc? Make it work on all classes, not just Stasis Arc. I agree with that too. There's no reason why it probably shouldn't work on everything. Stasis Arc Stream for Stasis. Yep. Or Arc Stream for Stasis. Yep. Yep. Everything else here is not really like, again, it's just a situation where there just needs to be more of them. Right? Solar, neutral, Arc, neutral, solar, neutral, Arc, void, solar, lots of solar shit. Finally get a Stasis one. Solar, again, neutral. You know, it's just a lot. There just needs to be more of them. Exactly, yeah. I'll just link people to all of the Stasis stuff we've talked about in the shorts. Renewal Grasp is fine. It's cool. I like the update that they did to it, too. Let's see here. Everything else here is good. Let's see, kind of scrolling through. Conviction. Yeah, nothing else here really, like, has any updates that make sense to them. They all kind of, like, are either neutral or not Stasis at all. I think, if anything, if we're going to go for anything for being an update, it's going to be Frosties. Increased grenade regeneration. This is a subclass neutral one right now. Increased grenade, melee, and dodge regeneration while sprinting. Dodging increases your sprint speed. Cool. This would be neat if this also, like, dodging gave a stack of frost armor. You know? That'd be neat. Got one subclass exotic, the rest are all neutral. Yeah. You mind if I share a concept in your Discord? Yeah, go ahead. Like running gives frost armor. That might be a bit much. Maybe while the dodge sprint bonus is active, it gives the frost armor. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. So I think that could be cool. Make it to where Frosties, while you have the sprint speed bonus, sprinting gives you frost armor. Maybe have it make it move faster while Frost Armor's equipped. It's not a bad idea either. Cool. Moving right along. Everything else here is subclass neutral or whatever. And again, there's just so few of them. All right, moving on. Good, fine, whatever. Neutral, neutral. Blah, 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 blah. Fellwinter's Helm, maybe, but this is a void thing, right? A weakening effect, so I guess that's fine. I guess it could probably do maybe like weaken or slows. That could be cool. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius, the blast radius, and the strength of the weakening effect. Make it to where powered melee's final blows create a burst of energy that weakens or slows. Maybe weakens and slows nearby targets. Fellwinter's is this weird niche one that either people love it or they never touch it. Sprint speed bonus should be active all the time. Then dodging should give you like 10 seconds of Frost Armor X1. I don't think the sprint speed bonus should be active all the time. It's very strong. Extremely strong. I guess that's like a Stompies thing, right? But Stompies has like its own thing. And it was a problem for quite a while, right? Weaken and slow. Yeah. Cool. Fellwinter's Helm. I like that. Cenotaph, Speaker, blah, 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 blah. Winter's Guile. This will be a lot better here, too. I think this could also possibly create stasis crystals when freezing or when shattering a frozen target. Keep it this as is and then add shattering a frozen target creates a stasis crystal. Cool? Cool. Aeons, fine, fine, fine. Whatever, whatever, whatever. Fine, fine, fine. Baladros. Winter's Wrath Shockwaves will increase shatter damage. Allies in range of Winter's Wrath Shockwave and Frost Pulse gain Frost Armor and deal increased damage with stasis weapons. Cool. I think this is fine as is, and again, it'll be better when everything else gets better. Fellwinter's has a niche with Wave Splitter and Orb Feedback Loop. Otherwise, nah, situational. True. Neutral, neutral, neutral. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of neutral stuff here. So much neutral stuff here. Oh my gosh, there's so much neutral stuff here. And yeah, that's about it. So I think this is just a situation where they just need to add more. Yeah, I'll just say go look at all of the shorts we've ever made talking about ideas for exotics. A lot of them are stasis because there's so few. Don't touch Osmiomancies. Oh yeah, good point. Osmiomancies. Yeah, they don't need to be touched. They're totally fine. Yeah, they seem good as is. Yep. Did I miss any of them? Did I miss any exotics? Weapons or armors? Frosties could lessen the slowed effects. Nah, that's not really their thing. They're not a resistance thing. They're a speed up and cooldown thing. All classes get strand leg armor, a balance of power, and swarmers. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. You're right. Should Agriceptors get a buff? Nah, it's fine. With everything else getting better about Stasis 2, it'll be better. Stasis Glaive for the primary slot. Yeah, okay, so we talked about this before. Here's why. All right? Think about how your Guardian holds stuff. No matter the weapon I put in here, they all hold it the same. Like, this is a pretty weird weapon, right? Comparatively. They all hold it the same. My hand is not changing, right? The reason why a glaive will never be a thing is that it would look weird if they held it the way they normally do. And Bungie, being Bungie, will probably never do it because it would require them to awkwardly hold it this way or change how the Guardian holds it, which is not likely. Glanced over renewal. Should add the frost armor faster. No, it's fine. I think it's totally fine as is. Forgot Winterbite. Ah, that's good. That's a good point. We did forget Winterbite. No, I think we agreed that they're all fine. No, we agreed that they're all generally fine, right? Like, all the stasis heavies are all pretty okay. Better now. And will be better when the stuff gets better. That's one of those situations where they're kind of like in this weird stasis is bad, so they're bad kind of thing. Yeah, renewal's fine as is. The 95 people praying for a stasis update. Yeah. Winterbite slabs, yeah. What if they made exotics that are aspect light? Like, what if Frosty's dodge also did slow? Like the Revenant aspect. That's kind of like what D1 exotics used to do. They used to basically be smaller versions of the aspects. There's so many things to do with how glaives are designed that make me think that Bungie regrets ever making them. I kind of agree, actually. I think that Bungie, like, glaives are cool. I like glaives. I don't have any on me right now. I like glaives. Glaives are cool, but they're kind of buggy. They feel unpolished. They felt unpolished for the vast majority of their time. Even now, the Vex caliber sometimes just registers damage literally seconds after hitting a target. So you just kind of have to pray that you actually hit the target. You have no idea. Why can't they hold the glaive like a staff? You know, like the bow? Well, like, think about, like, where my hand is, right? Like, this is where my hand pokes out. It would be, like, right kind of behind me. I don't know. I just think they think it look weird. Also, anytime you ever hold a weapon like the intro sequence to Crucible, you'd probably clip through your head consistently. Not that I care, but Bungie cares about that kind of stuff. Needs a meaningful interaction with Stasis weapons that can... that do not have chill clip headstone. Yeah. The buffs we talked about for Stasis, I think, would be pretty good. All right. Chat, I have work to get to. So I will wrap it up here. Not quite. There we go. Beautiful. All right, everybody. Thank you for everyone who showed up today. Thank you so much for the support. We're in a weird spot right now, y'all. So, like, realistically, if you love TDT, you like seeing us do stuff, support us. Like, just bluntly, support us. We're in this weird limbo, not sure what's going on with anything happening right now. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today, giving your thoughts, giving your opinions, and all that goodness. In the meantime, y'all, bless your faces. Deuces.